And first of all, I want to thank Al Ayman, the best manager in the world.
He's the fucking champion of the world!
Ladon Stevenson, piece of shit.
No, I think Rosado good boy. Rosado is a good boy.
I've become a massive international superstar. It's as simple as that.
I eat your asshole alive, you bitch. Scared of the real man. I'll fuck you till you love me, faggot.
I'm going to physically shoot David Hay. Wait. He fucking glassed me. He glassed me.
Derek, who's out? I'm Shannon Briggs. I'm hard to kill. I'm the black beast of the ball. I'm hard to fucking kill.
Well, I believe Christopher can take a punch. I'm very good at math and looking at a fighter and seeing what his abilities are. I can't see that Golovkin has anything like Christopher's speed, his power, his punching ability, his hand speed, his foot movement. I don't see that from a calculating point of view. I don't see that he has anything like that. So then it's going to come down to heart.
You know, I spoke to Joe Gallagher, they don't want to fight Carl Frampton. And the bottom line is, you know, no disrespect to Prosper Edgar, these guys aren't good enough to face Carl Frampton.
I'm the best heavyweight champion in the world. I'm half WPC with me. I'm undefeated champion. Undisputed champion. I want who next?
He's got my dinomibonucleic acid.
Undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Who next?
I love boxing, Sam. It's as simple as that.
Welcome everyone to the 25th of January, 109th edition of the Nuthouse podcast, brought to you by boxfilm.com. I'm your host Andy Patterson. With me today I've got Kurt Ward, Donny Baseball, Kyle McLaughlin, Steve Wellens, Alex Morris, and freshly off the job, Adam Smith. Hopefully he's not going to pass out after last night's shenanigans. Are you right, Adam? How you doing, mate?
I'm on top of the world.
Did you blow the blackhead head out last night?
Every hole's a goal.
Good man. Good man.
What do you
start. It's a good start.
Didn't Adam pick Rios by KO?
Yeah, but he KO'd his missus last night as well.
I got the double in.
Got a double in. Left her face like a painter's radio.
He potted the pink in the brown.
By accident, twice in the one go.
Just 1 minute in and we're already...
We need to start again. Roll the tape.
That is bad by your standards. But anyway, guys...
I didn't even encourage that.
I know you didn't, but you would tell us. Anyways, guys, I really don't know if we should call it a fantastic performance, but certainly Brandon Rios last night came back to form. Probably his best performance since the first Alvarado fight back in 2012, I think. Looking at Brandon Rios last night, he looked wet going into the ring, so basically I thought he was in good nick. Especially at the weigh-in, he didn't look as chubby and as kind of fleshy as I've seen him at 147 in the past. Certainly looked to be in good nick there last night, but although he showed good foot movement, he was patient to start off with the jab, and then just obviously when he gets inside, that's his office basically. When you get into Rios' office and that, you've got to be on the top of your game, you've got to be fit, you've got to be strong, and plus you've got to be prepared. And if anything we can say last night, Alvarado, we knew 2-3 weeks ago he wasn't prepared. 4 in the morning, we've heard Matty D heard the story 2-3 years ago when we started this podcast. He just wasn't living the life, life entails of cocaine, alcohol abuse. We've got in good authority that for the Marquez fight, he went away over the west coast to get away from Denver. Well, we've got in good authority he was actually propping up bars over there while preparing for the Marquez fight. I really don't know what else to say about Alvarado, guys. I mean, there was no movement from him last night. Even in the first round, his punches seemed to be very, very forced, very pushed. Nothing, no snapping at all. And it was a bit different worry at the end of the second round when you hear his trainer saying, "I'm going to pull you out shortly." So, Kurt, you're very critical of Alvarado last night. But first of all, before we get critical of Alvarado, Rios, you agree with me that he looked probably the best he's ever looked recently, or can we put that down to the fact that Alvarado hasn't prepared properly for that fight?
I mean, I agree with what you said. He looked in really good condition for him to what we've seen him in the past, especially as he's moved up. You know, his face looks a lot thinner, I thought. Usually he's quite fleshy as well, but you know, in the ring you can't really take nothing away from what he did. He went in there and yeah, we're going to get on to Alvarado, but he had his man in front of him who wasn't up to it, and he done what a fight as soon. He took him apart and got rid of him and made him quit basically very, very quickly. I mean, he looked really good. I mean, how much of it is down to him and how much of it is down to Alvarado's lack of dedication? I think it's probably somewhere in between. I mean, stick him in with Chavez again, I think Brandon Rios will probably look a bit bad again. Stick him in with Tim Bradley, he might look bad as well. So I think the guy in front of him, there's many welterweights out there that have loved to be in the ring with Alvarado in that shape last night. I mean, he should just call it quits now. He's done at the top. I mean, he's suffered some bad beatings. You know, he was getting arrested at 4 a.m. heading to this fight. You know, I said it on Twitter. Brandon Rios approached this as if his career was on the line. You know, if he lost this fight, that was him. There was nowhere else to go. And he trained like a madman, and he went in the ring and, you know, fought like that. Alvarado, to me, just couldn't care less. And to do that in front of your home fans who have, you know, came out in support of him again, despite hearing the rumours, seeing him in the news getting arrested, they've still shelled out their money to come out to try and, you know, spur him on to victory. And he hasn't gave any effort at all, to be honest. I mean, he's picked up his paycheck, and then at the end of that, he's quit, and then he said, you know, I'm not done yet, I'll be back. I mean, he must think those fans are absolutely stupid. I know weed's legalised over there, but they're not all smoking it, and that's stupid. I mean, you can only piss off the fans so many times, and I think he was a disgrace, to be honest. If he had just said afterwards, I'm sorry, I messed up in training, I didn't turn up, but full credit, I think you can say, well, fair enough, but he's still an idiot. But the way he conducted himself afterwards, I just think, just retire and, you know, don't even have the embarrassment of having your next fight there and having no one turn up, because their fans deserve better than that. You know, go out on your shield, fair enough, give it everything you've got, you lose, at least you tried, but he weren't bothered at all. He didn't give a damn about any one of those fans.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it as well, I mean, the crowd booing him, you know, his hometown crowd booing him, I think that speaks volumes as to what they thought. I mean, Donny, you know, you heard Curtis mention that he came for the money. Do you think, or should, well, I've seen it on Twitter myself actually, but do you think there should be cries for him to have his purse withheld for that?
No. I mean, at the end of the day, legally speaking, he fulfilled all of his obligations. That's not going to happen. He's going to get paid. He's going to collect his check. There's no doubt about it. The only thing is that maybe if there was any sort of substance abuse stuff, if he tested positive for any drugs, then he would obviously have some of his purse withheld. But barring that, I mean, he did show up. He did try for the minimal amount of rounds that we saw, but he wasn't in shape to fight. He knew it. He admitted that in the post-fight interview, which to me also sort of completely obliterates the argument that he had double vision, because he said afterwards, he said, and I quote, "I could have showed heart. Maybe my vision was compromised," but he goes, "I could have showed heart. I could have stayed in there, but I didn't train right for this fight, and I deserve what I got." So that alone speaks volumes. I mean, he knows that he screwed up, and he knows that he needs to go back to the drawing board. I don't necessarily think he's done. He looked awful in there last night, but I don't think he needs to retire. I think that what he needs to do is to get back in the gym. He needs to exercise these demons that have consumed his life, whether it be drugs, whether it be partying, whether it be drinking, whether it be whatever it be. But he needs to get rid of all of that, and he needs to go back to basics. On his way up, he fought a lot of tough guys. He fought Carlos Molina. He fought Breidis Prescott. He fought a lot of guys. And, you know, in many instances, he showed a great bit of heart. Came from behind against Breidis Prescott. Beat Carlos Molina. he beat a lot of guys along the way. And I mean, when he had to prove something, he was a good fighter. And I think this is just the sort of stereotypical scenario of a small town guy who gets big, who gets a lot of money, who gets a lot of recognition, who gets a lot of fame, and he doesn't know how to handle it. And he goes off the deep end. But now he has been unceremoniously thrusted back onto the scrap heap. And he has two choices. He can either resume his career and start all over again and become the fighter that he used to be, or he can call it a day, maybe try to pick up a few paydays as a journeyman, and then that'll be it. It's an unfortunate situation. I think you have to feel for him, but if he wants to, he can be back. He can be back if he wants to be back, but it's going to require a lot of commitment, and it's going to require a lot of change on his part. So we'll see what happens.
Kel, you heard a very depressed Donny there. To be honest, and what he's saying is probably true, but at the same time, it's going to be a long, hard way back up to the top now. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Bob Arum dumping him after that. Bob Arum said directly after the fight, and I quote, he had it looked like he had very little. In fact, he had zero in that ring there last night. And as Kurt, I've got to give Kurt credit for this comment actually as well. As I think it's about time he actually changed his name from Mile High Mike Alvarado to Always High Mike Alvarado. Agree?
Well, I just think he's been pasted, 3 times in a row now. He survived the distance against Marquez, did he? But he got dropped pretty heavily. I know he knocked Marquez down in the next round, but the round before, Alvarado got sent halfway across the ring. I think he's just been pasted. I think I'd hope it isn't true, but got to think as well, is there some sort of connection between the addiction he's got outside the ring with the possible, I hate to say it, but we have to go there, possible brain damage he might be suffering in the ring, because he's taken a lot of hard fights, and it can get to you. It can give you an addictive personality. It can make you go off the rails. I think he got arrested recently, and I think it's time for him to call it a day. He can easily go down the pugilistic path of becoming a journeyman, so to speak, and always trying to get that one last win or that one last shot of glory. And I think if he does it, he might end up getting seriously hurt. As it stood with you guys, he tried hard in there at times, but he didn't chase Rios. He kind of just stood there, got battered, and then when Rios stepped away, then he'd try and throw back, and he was swinging wildly, and he's never the most sort of classy of operators, but he usually got a bit in the bag. He can't box that well, but he can do a bit of it. He fights out of southpaw and orthodox. He tries a few different things. Last night he looked clueless, and considering that he did try and fight back at times, it's like he didn't mean it in a way. It's like there was no conviction behind his punches or behind his work. And I think again you have to look at Rios. He did look good, but Alvarado looks, to me, a completely shot fighter. I can't see that Bob Arum's going to waste him unless he's got a decent enough welterweight he wants to feed him to. I'm sure that if he does leave Bob Arum, if he actually leaves him and there's no contractual disputes, and Al Heyman will feed him to someone over on NBC and get smashed up in front of millions of people. But I just don't think there's any going back for him at the top level of the sport whatsoever. I can't see it happening, not unless I don't know, maybe while Pacquiao's fighting someone else, or maybe Crawford moving up. Maybe they might use him to build someone else up, might use him to build up Crawford, maybe Vargas, something like that. But he looks completely shot to me.
I think, has Andy done it, Alvarado?
Has Andy stood on his stool, sat on his stool?
Oh, sorry. I'm mute there, sorry. I was actually halfway talking there, I was actually seeing Kyle's Kurt started talking there.
I thought I might have sent you to sleep, mate. I was like, what have I done here? I think I've actually made him commit suicide with the boring rant I just went on.
I was definitely chatting. And as I say, as I was attempting to say anyway, it's night and day compared to the Brothers Prescott performance. I mean, he showed complete warrior instinct in that fight. I think he was well behind in the cars and he turned it around. I think it was the 10th round stoppage. I think it was with a left hook or something. But as you said, Kyle, and as I said at the start of the show there as well, is there was nothing on those punches. They were forced, they were pushed. There wasn't any snapping. It was pushed out. He'd be switching southpaw a couple of times. There was just absolutely no conviction to him. And as you say, I think him fighting back was more out of desperation to try and keep Rios off him, because whenever Rios got inside Steve, he was ripping him with that right uppercut. And then obviously that left hook, it dropped him. I think it was I forget what round it was actually. It just says it was I think it was a second round actually. It was just a matter of time, and it was absolutely pathetic, I felt. But as Kurt was asking in the chat there, do you liken this performance of Alvarado's to what Barker put up against Sturm last year?
Well, I was going to say if Alvarado was a matchroom fighter, we'd be going absolutely nuts today.
There we go.
So
Steve,
yes,
do you think, mate?
It does compare.
I'm not sure if it does or not. I suppose Barker did go in the ring maybe knowing that he had an injury. Alvarado went in the ring under completely different circumstances. I can sort of see the comparisons. I think Alvarado is a warrior, but he has that warrior mentality. We've seen him go to war before, but I think his brain's that addled now and just completely numb off all these substances and all this crap that's going on outside the ring. I don't think he even knows what to think anymore. But I picked Rios by knockout in the 10th round. I thought he would knock Alvarado out, but not as early as it happened, and I just underestimated Alvarado's decline. He looked shot to bits last night. He could barely stand up straight, and his legs were all over the place. He just provided a stationary target for Rios, similar to the way Barker provided that same stationary target for Sturm. Rios has good defensive variety when he's fit and focused, and he was on good form last night. But there was nothing that Alvarado could do to weather the storm, and even through that little low blowing, some respite, and it did work briefly actually, because Rios sort of took his foot off the gas momentarily, but Alvarado was just pissing in the wind really. He just couldn't do anything. And I know that Rios had spoken of his retirement beforehand, and the onus was on him to put in a performance, but it was more to do with Alvarado's deterioration, I thought, than Rios' fresh look. And Alvarado's done at the top level. He's just an accident waiting to happen, I think, especially outside of the ring. I actually fear for Alvarado's future, I really do. It's not going to end well for him, is it? He's going to end up in a ditch somewhere with one in the back of the head. I mean, it's sad to say, but that's pretty much what
do you reckon Browner is the one who's going to do it? Paid off, that's going to be Browner's new job.
Well, yeah, I suppose that could be. It could be better than some of the jobs he lined up for him. I mean, no, but seriously though, all respect to Rios, I suppose. I mean, he has a brighter future ahead of him than he did before the fight, and he's young enough to get a few more marketable outings out of this now. So, and then one final note, I always like to keep an eye on the dodgy tattoos, and there were some rough ones on display last night, wasn't there, between them pair. So,
I tell you what, actually, if you talk about like maybe a fighter having either shot or having his soul taken from him, that reminded me of somewhat like Kelly Pavlik after he got taken to school by Hopkins. He went in dramatic decline, alcoholism, and look at the tattoos he ended up with.
He did, yeah. But the reason I brought up Darren Barker was, I think if you look at both cases, Barker knew he was injured going into that fight, but because he offered €1 million, I think, and it's the same with Alvarado. Yesterday he was on $800,000, I think he was on. If you look at both of those cases, if they was in maybe tune-up fights or much smaller fights, I think both cases the fights don't happen. I think they both pull out, but because the paydays that are on offer, they go ahead of it and just know that they're probably going to come off second best. But you just think of the fans who pay a lot of money to see it.
What about
I think the fans were ripped off.
What about Sergio Martinez, Adam, against Cotto last year? I mean, does that fall into that category?
One. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that Alvarado, that is a prime example of a horribly shot fighter last night, and I think it was significant when it came out that whether he was carrying a gun or not carrying a gun, he was riding around with one of his pals at 4 a.m. in the morning of only a few weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, that set alarm bells ringing for me. And like I said last week, the bookies actually had it a close fight. Then there was I had a decent bet on Rios. I just thought Alvarado was shot, and there was some decent money actually came for Rios last week. He opened the week it was 4-5 on Monday, or when I spoke on last Sunday, and he went off at 4-7. So some money came for Rios, so it trickled. Our knowledge trickled down to the punters on the street. But I think that Alvarado couldn't even adapt his stance last night. He was standing square on. He didn't know whether he wanted to be southpaw or orthodox. And when he, like you guys have said, when he was throwing back, there wasn't any real conviction in it. It was more out of desperation than with any real strategy. I don't suppose last night's undercard was very good either. So if I was a local fan, and quite a few of them turned up to see Alvarado, I'd feel ripped off.
Well, Matty D went to go and see Alvarado. As you say, Adam's just with us here. He's actually come off the job there, so all goodness so big props to Adam actually for doing what you're doing, mate, and obviously coming on the pod at the same time. You've got some stamina, mate. Warriors, Carol Froch would say. But Alex, give me your take on Rios. Obviously, he saved his career there last night. We said last week that whoever lost that fight was obviously on the road to journeymanship. But it was quite staggering to hear Alvarado's voice in that little HBO segment. That was a classic sign of someone who has either hit the bottle too much or on the meth pipe. But Rios' future's looking pretty bright now. I mean, obviously he's calling out Vicky Ortiz. Some people were saying on the forum that's probably ritual suicide for Ortiz, but fuck it, I want to see that fight made. That it's bad blood, and there's a score to settle there. Do you want to see that fight?
Yeah, it's a great fight. I mean, it's a fight between two mentally challenged fighters, and I think that they'd be evenly matched in that department. But no, I think Rios would probably burst vicious Victoria Ortiz, simply because Ortiz is he's borderline shot. I think Ortiz, the fights that he's been in and the outcome that he's had and sort of the inactivity that he's faced, I think that Rios would mow him down. I mean, yeah, Rios is slightly deteriorated from the Pacquiao fight, and he didn't really look that good against Chavez, but Chavez can be a bit awkward. He looked excellent last night, but can you really give him much credit for that? Because he was fighting a punching bag, essentially. Alvarado was really giving nothing back. Of course you're going to look good teeing off on a punching bag, throwing great combinations and, trying out different things, because Rios wasn't really worried about anything coming back. He's normally not that worried about anything coming back anyway. As we know, he's very, head first sort of fighter. But the most significant punch landed by Alvarado last night was the bollock punch, and he was just completely gone. You could tell, obviously, you say through his speech, we could say that he's slurring his words, he's looking a bit messed up. On the way to the ring, he was, basically staggering about the place. But in the first 10 seconds of that bell ringing, you saw him come out and you saw how tentative he was. You saw how reluctant he was to throw a punch. I think he landed or threw 6 punches in the first round. That's not Mike Alvarado. Mike Alvarado, that we know, the one that we fell in love with, the one that beat Bradus Prescott, was fucking straight out there in your face, and he's going to punch your fucking nut off. And he was brilliant. But last night he was there for the payday, and it was absolutely depressing to see. And what's even worse is the fact that he got paid that much for that fight. He's thinking that he can do that again. He's going to expect that, and he's going to expect future paydays like that. He won't get anywhere near that for his next fight, but he'll keep saying to himself in his head, I'm good enough to earn 800 grand in a single night. I can do this. I'm going to get back to that way. And he's going to keep fighting. He's going to keep getting battered, and he's going to keep up his stupid addiction. And it's just going to be a vicious circle for him unless someone gives him a right kick up the fucking arse.
And Ortiz can't hang with Brandon Rios. I mean, if that's going to the trenches, we know who's going to win that fight. I mean, Ortiz has shown when he gets hurt, he doesn't like it, and he looks for a way out. I mean, yeah, he'll want to beat Rios and he'll want to shut him up, but look at his last fight. Look how awful he looked in that. He got hurt and he quit. What was it, second round against Collazo? I mean, he's not a boxer no more. I think that's a bad fight for him, to be honest.
Yeah, Rios is going to be right up in his grill, worse than any fighter that he's faced, worse than Maidana was. Yeah, he doesn't hit as hard as Maidana, but Rios is just going to be constantly on him, and he's going to fucking bitch out like he always does.
I kind of think Ortiz is kind of like the lottery. Like, you never know which Ortiz is going to turn up. I think he'd give Rios a good fight. But the thing is, I don't think that fight is ripe until Ortiz beats some other legitimate opponent. If he could beat one other legitimate opponent, the fight could be made. I know there's like a Heyman Top Rank thing there, but I honestly think that because of the bad blood, because of all the, the shit that they've talked about one another, maybe it might be economically rational such that it makes the most sense for both fighters to fight each other, and hopefully the people that manage them will realize that.
Was there no an allegation at some point that during an altercation, Rios' wife was injured or something, and she fallen and hurt her head, and Ortiz was to blame for it or something?
Not heard anything.
I heard that somewhere. Sorry, on you go.
I was going to say, what about Ortiz versus Berto, the rematch?
Well, yeah, sure. That's a great fight.
Ortiz is the American version of Fraudley Harrison. He is.
Nah, to be honest, you got to say, or at least Ortiz showed that he had a slight bit of heart about him when he got up against Berto in that fight.
But what I'm saying is, people easily forget. Like Ortiz has had a break and he's come back and he said, "Oh yeah, I'm taking it serious now." You're not. It's still the same. You quit against, all that time ago against Maidana, messed about against Floyd, messed about against Collazo, and now he speaks and people believe him. It's a load of shit.
I suppose Harrison showed a bit of heart against Sprott, didn't he, with that bum shoulder and knocked him out in the last round, I suppose.
Audley just gets smashed to pieces. Ortiz actually quits. I don't think Harrison actually quits. He just gets battered and then he's like, I can't handle it.
Two things. Audley's never quit on a fight. He always goes out and shield. And second, until Victor Ortiz wins prize fighter, he ain't in the same sentence as Sir Audley.
Twice.
Can we move on from Fraudley, please?
No worries, Alex. Just before we do move on, actually, you mentioned the numbers there. Actually, I think that the number you said was 6 or 8 or something. I think that was the punches that Alvarado had landed. The total number of punches that he'd thrown was 23 in the first round. Rios threw over 80.
I know that he landed in total 20 punches, and that was like equivalent to him earning 37 grand a punch last night. That was for Alvarado. Fucking joke.
How much coke will that get him?
That's exactly. I bet he's already pissing it up against the wall right now. He's snorting
either
off
that, he's paying off his dealer or something.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, doesn't Alvarado scream of someone that needs to move trainer, move away from Colorado? Like Rios. Rios is a lunatic at times, but he moved away from his hometown years ago, and he's done okay. I think Alvarado screams someone that needs to move trainer.
Can he get away from it though? I mean, he's involved. We don't know the extent of the involvement of gangs that he's got.
I just think he should move in with Jermaine Taylor. They should just have a little men behaving badly.
Either way, that guy
comes round at weekends.
That guy needs an intervention at some point. Someone needs to sit him down and say, "Listen, not for the sake of your career, the sake of your life, the way you're going to head that." But I think it was you that said, Kurt, it's not going to be Cloner at one point. It's going to be him that's going to be lying down in the ditch with a bullet in the back of his head.
You know who really needs. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but you know who really needs Hand Wolf more than anybody is Mike Alvarado. Where if he trained down there, that all this bullshit would stop, wouldn't it? I mean, look at the way she conducts her camp.
Yeah, boot camp 101.
Yeah.
Hardcore.
But that's exactly what a fighter like him needs, because if you're an action fighter who's going to take a punch to give a punch, I mean, you realize, you could try to, all right, maybe he could sign with Virgil Hunter and he could try to develop defense, but Mike Alvarado's, 33 years old? I mean, he's not going to do that. You can't necessarily teach a dog who's that old new tricks.
Well, he's
but
got
what you
boxing.
can do is you can make somebody who's that kind of fighter. You can get him into shape to fight that kind of fight, and that's what he used to do. That's how he won that Rios rematch, and that's how he could obviously win. Another significant fight is that he needs to get in shape, but he hasn't done it. And I really do believe if he was with Ann Wilf, that would be the perfect match for him in terms of a trainer.
Okay, I think Steve and I were only two to see this fight in its entirety. Kurt saw 5 rounds. Gilberto Ramirez Sanchez, who's ranked in the top 3 of every organisation. 10-round decision victory, 96-94, 97-93, 97-93 against Maxim Flazov. Now, Flazov I think is only ranked in one of the bodies in the top 10. I've only seen clips of Sanchez in the past, and last night was the first time I got a chance to sit and watch one of his fights right through. To be honest, I think he's definitely a work in progress. Although that fight was at light heavyweight, obviously his future's going to stay at super middleweight. But the one thing I did take, although he's got a decent enough attack about him, his defence is very, very leaky, very, very flat-footed, no upper body or head movement. He is wide open down the pipe for a straight right hand from a southpaw. And guys like Andre Ward, for instance, who could probably box him from either stance, he could pot shot him all night long. Even if you're actually an orthodox fighter as well, as you could also lead him there with a straight right hand. He's wide open down the middle, it's untrue. So obviously, that fight last night would have done a lot of good for him, basically try and work on new things. And, that's the way you're going to get tested, having fights like that. But not sold. I think I'll need to watch a wee bit more of him to try and see where he's going to be at. But as I say, he's in the top 3 of every organisation. He's going to have to keep clear of Darrell, Froch, or Ward for the foreseeable. But I think maybe Abraham's a winnable fight for him. But not convinced. Steve, I think you're pretty much the same, mate.
Yeah, it was good to see both guys step up, first of all, in what was a reasonable fight between two solid operators, not spectacular. One undefeated, the other with a solitary loss. Vlasov, I think, had lost to Isaac Chilemba. Let's see who beats Isaac Chilemba. Well, Tony schooled Chilemba twice, so I mean that's put that one to bed. But I thought it was a good match on paper. Commend the matchmaking, but it didn't really catch fire, even though they showed plenty of spirit and good punch numbers, but there was a lot of miss punches as well, a lot of swinging shots sort of flying off into the night sky. But Ramirez, he landed a lot of good body shots, which impressed me, and his output was good. He impressed me with his work rate as well, but as you said, he ate up a lot of right hands, quite a few right hands throughout the night, which is a concern for him going forward. But he's very highly ranked in all of the sanctioning body's top 5s. I think he's 2 or 3 actually in all of the sanctioning bodies rating. So he has a few options out there, and he's got a prime-time HBO appearance under his belt now, which could help or hinder his progress depending on how that fight was received by the fans and the network. I know there was a few smatterings of boos in the crowd, and the Colonel wasn't really that impressed, and he suggested that the fans wanted to see a bit more action. But Ramirez is undefeated. He'll get his shot at some belt or another, and whether he's got a beating of the very best fighters at the weight class, I remain to be convinced.
Kurt, you almost fell 5 rounds, mate. You weren't impressed. You actually fast-forwarded onto the Rios fight.
Yeah, I mean, this guy is quite highly touted. I see a lot of people saying, talking about big things for him in the future. And I thought that was his big stage. He was against the guy who admitted himself in the fighter meeting before the fight that he's not very talented. He's just a guy who's basically got a good work rate and he tries hard. That's about it. So you'd expect a guy who's highly rated, ranked by all these organisations and touted as a star to just look better than he did, and he didn't seem to do anything that well to me. I mean, Steve said the body shots, yeah, that could one thing, but he just didn't seem like he was taking his chance, to be honest, to be on HBO and against the guy. To me, he was a tough guy, obviously, but someone who would be right in front of him and he could, look good against, I thought. I mean, maybe he's a work in progress and he's got to develop more, maybe, or prove me wrong, but I'm not impressed by him at the moment.
So, as was says, I think maybe his best option, if he's going to go down the world title route, I think it's going to have to be the winner, Abraham Smith. Maybe even get an eliminator with, what do you call him, Stieglitz. Depends if the Stern rematch is ever going to happen. But finally, as I say, it's been very, very sparse. Over the next coming weeks, it's going to be very, very sparse for action. I was watching some TV programmes last night, and I remembered this fight was on, so I tuned into it and watched it. From Italy, the European lightweight title fight between Emiliano Marcea, who some listeners will probably know of that 7-round. It was a good fight actually, 7-round win against Terry Matthews a few years ago. He beat I think it was a 3 or 4 day late replacement, Gregory Maiza. Now this was actually a rematch. Now I think compare the first fight to the rematch, as it's quite clear that Maiza wasn't fully fit for the fight. Dropped. I think he was dropped 3 times during that fight. By the third round, I think Marcel had it all his own way. He was getting the body shots in. For a guy that Marseille's reach and length, etc., he doesn't really kind of use his jab to any great effect. He did have times where he was landing it with effectiveness, but he just wasn't stepping into it. I think by the 6th round, the uppercuts and sustained left hands and stuff, he was down twice in that round, and he dropped again in the 7th. Gutty performer, but he did get up again, but the referee said he had enough. Well, saw he had enough. There was absolutely no point in that fight going on after the 7th round, because I think his corner could have pulled him out at any time. There was just absolutely no point in that lad going on there and having a 12-round beating. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up next. Emil Marcea, I think it'll be a European title level in all honesty. That being the case, on to Twitter questions now. Donnie, you've actually got a question that's actually going to cause a wee bit of stir amongst the Brits. Fire away.
Well, it's not so much a question so much as it is a statement.
Statement of fact.
Oh.
I believe that Rios would smash.
No way.
He would smash Kell Brook, absolutely. He is, to me, 5 or 10 times better than Carson Jones is at the same style of fighting. And Carson Jones is a quasi journeyman. Rios does what Carson Jones is 10 times better, and you would see Kell Brook get annihilated. It would be an absolute joke, and I don't even think that Kell Brook would even take the fight.
Donny, you've been spending too much time with Mike Alvarado because there's no way Rios beats Kell Brook. Firstly, Rios is not a full-blown welterweight, and Kell Brook is a big welterweight. We all know that. And
yeah,
secondly,
Rios is a huge welterweight. He weighs it as a middleweight in the ring.
The fight doesn't happen because Kell doesn't make weight. I'd believe that, but other than that, I think that if he actually did make weight, Brandon Rios would wear that man down. You know, with Carson Jones, we saw how he was in those late rounds. Okay.
Not in the second fight.
Yeah, well, all right. In the second fight, where Kell Brook had a purchase,
weight
advantage. Yes, of course, he dominated a man. But let's see him actually go 12 hard rounds with somebody who's going to never stop coming at you like Brandon Rios. You know, Sean Porter. Yeah, you know, he's a tough fighter. He's an athletic fighter, but he does. I mean, he puts on pressure, but I don't think that anybody in boxing really their pressure can be compared to the pressure that Rios puts on. Rios can take everything, and he never stops coming to mind how much he gets hit. So,
Donny, I want you to do me a favour. Get a piece of paper and a pen. Write down 20 welterweights on one side, and then on the other side, put the title "Can be outboxed." Underline it, and the first one that comes to mind, write his name down, and it's Brandon Rios. Easily outboxed, and Kell Brook will outbox.
What I would say is, right, what Donny's probably saying is slightly correct now. You think about when Porter attacked, he bull rushes you, but he smothered his work. Rios is a great inside fighter in today's boxing world. You've got to hand it to him. So if he is able to get inside and hold in there with Brook, I think he would tee off a few shots in there. I mean, you saw it last night, the uppercuts, the left hooks, the body shots. I think it's a tough fight. I'm not going to say that Brook would get annihilated. I wouldn't say he would get destroyed. I think it's a very, very tough fight. I think it's going to come down to the fact is who's got the stamina and who's got the will going into like the 9th and 10th rounds and that. And we've seen Brook get into gut fights before. Carson Jones with the first fight was a gut check for him. Yeah. The Porter fight was a gut check as well, so at least he's proven there that he could take it deep in the trenches.
But it's funny with the hate for British fighters, particularly matchroom ones, that seems to be ingrained in most people's thoughts nowadays. Porter was being talked up as up there with Thurman, you know. They're going on for the big fights, Manny and Floyd. He was being talked up like Thurman. Kell Brook goes and puts on a very good performance, wins the title, and then yet it's Porter that's the one that's crap and has been exposed and was never that good.
Well, would we pick Rios to beat Amir Khan? Because, you know, Julio Diaz shot lightweight, nearly had Khan out a couple of fights ago. So surely Donny will be picking Rios to give Khan a good scrap and all.
That is excellent.
Donny's only saying this because Brooks had
fight. I think he would give him a very tough fight, but I think that Khan has the speed and the range to keep him off. But I think that Brooks' ability to exploit his range and to exploit his length is not as good as Khan's. I think he would be more troubled by Rios than Khan would.
I think you got to take it at what it is, though. I mean, Rios looked great against basically a punch bag, you know, last night. I mean, remember his last fight against Chavez? He was losing that fight wide, I thought. And I think Kell Brook would be a big favourite against Brandon Rios, who would give him a tough fight. I mean, Rios would give most guys a tough fight, I think. There's just a few guys that are just going to be way too good for him, but I think Brook has to be a big favourite in that fight for me.
Yeah. And
Rios was sort of like outboxed by Mike Alvarado 2 fights back, so it's not like people are just getting too excited. He's very hot and cold. A lot of time he is quite plodding. Every so often he'll start cutting the ring off really well again, and the next fight he'll be plodding again. Although I've got to say, he is a big welterweight. He's been weighing in as like a middleweight since he was a lightweight. He is a big welterweight. He's been weighing in as like a middleweight since he was a lightweight.
Getting some feedback there, guys.
Donny again.
It is a good point he's making it 3 times there.
Just let's repeat it.
I think what'll happen though, Donny, is we'll get Rios over here. We'll get Matchroom will get a referee. They'll get Terry O'Connor, and every time that Rios goes in close, Kell will just hold like Vladimir, and then the fight will be won on points.
Donny, if you're listening, mate, mute your mic because you're getting some feedback off you there, mate.
Donny's getting revenge on us for
Fine
talking
now.
about Khan.
Hearing my own voice was pretty dull. I'm gonna have to I had to kill myself now. Apologies to all the listeners. A matter of fact, I've got to say quickly, a lot of the comments we're getting on the podcast is that I've got a very unique accent. You don't hear it very often on the radio or TV. Maybe there's a reason for that.
Kyle, I think you sound like you live in a posh area, but you're like one of the youngsters, got a bit of street twang in a posh area. That's what
Nah, mate. I'm 27 years old, mate. I live in utter shithole, mate. Don't worry about that.
Right. The next question comes from Broom82. Adam, would you rather wake up tomorrow and spend the rest of your life with Deontay Wilder's legs or Lee Froch as a brother?
Oh, I'd love Lee Froch as a brother. I'd have Lee Froch as a brother, no problem. No problem at all.
He is Lee Froch.
Yeah, I am Lee Froch.
But the thing is, when you see Lee Froch going about with that man, was it what they call it, the mankini he had on and running about like a fucking weapon?
I've not seen that. Someone post me it.
Very
I'll get it printed.
Right,
Very
so
disrespectful.
I think Donny's dropping off. He's got to go away and do some work. All the best, Donny. We'll catch you next week, mate.
Cheers, Donny.
Steve, Chad Hogan's asking, Triple G isn't HBO pay-per-view. Froch can't get the Chavez fight, and now apparently GGG is an option. Is Hearn a cunt or a compulsive liar?
Oh, come on now, that's a bit harsh on Eddie. Chad, if you're listening, get in touch, man. Come on, let's ring in, let's hear this. No, I think that's a bit harsh on Eddie, but Triple G against Carl Froch, that's something that excites me, man. I wouldn't mind seeing that one.
Mm-hmm.
But they are really pushing hard for the Chavez fight, which isn't going to happen, I don't think. So, yeah, Froch versus Golovkin, let's get it on. And Eddie, give Eddie a break, man. Come on, it's time we laid off Eddie.
If he's not going to fight Golovkin, I can see why the Chavez fight, because it's the only fight I think it could be HBO pay-per-view. Hearn told us that he wouldn't be surprised if Froch turned around and fought Golovkin because he called him a sick bastard. I think it's more down to the fact that now Froch is the one in charge. He tells Eddie Hearn who he wants, so go and get it for me. Hearn can only do what he can do, I suppose.
I've got to defend Froch here. I'm going to do it.
Good.
I think
that's what I just did.
Yeah, I'll do it as well. And then we'll never do it again. But I think if Golovkin was a pay-per-view attraction in the United States, I think Froch would fight him. I think he wants that. Not only does he want to fight in America in Vegas, but he wants that HBO pay-per-view cash, from both sides. That's why they want the Chavez fight. It's an easy fight as well. But if Chavez don't happen, I think he's going to have one more fight, and I don't know who that's. He doesn't want to fight DeGale. I mean, Golovkin is. I think every fan would want to see that fight. It's just whether the money will be what he wants.
You know, I'm going to have to address this, Andy, but I think even with my rose-tinted glasses on, it's difficult to support what's gone on this week with Froch. And really, I think it's quite simple. Chavez, for whatever reason, when I get his name right, for whatever reason,
Chavez.
he either can't sign, i.e. he needs to get out of a contract with Top Rank, or he just won't sign. So that's the first reason. So what way can Froch keep his options open for the summer, keep hold of the IBF belt, and continue to not fight DeGale, get injured? I think it's rather simple.
I will be honest here. Listen, I'll be honest here now. Again, shock horror. I'm going to defend Froch. If my information's right, if what I remember is correct, Eddie Hearn is quoted as saying that this injury has been an ongoing problem for a few years. Now, go back to some of the sparring videos with Barker and Eubank Jr. I think it's the right arm.
Yeah, he has it strapped.
It's strapped up.
Yeah.
So if it's that one, then potentially it could be a problem.
But I think we need to address the point that Froch's number one fan is basically calling him a liar, and he's saying he's manipulated his fan base.
Yep.
So take that what you will.
And the haters, apparently I'm a hater, and I'm defending him, and he's calling him a liar.
I've got to say though, sorry.
Go on. It's just all I put last week was that it's extremely convenient, and I know. It keeps all options open. You continue, but the worst thing, I mean, some people, including me, could have come up and kind of, stuck up for the situation, but to hear that Julio Cesar, less than 24 hours later, has signed up to a fight shows that obviously, negotiations wasn't that, quote unquote deep, because if within 24 hours they can get someone else to replace him on a similar date, it's just they've had a tough week really for PR wise.
Who was Chavez fighting
Kyle
for?
then Alex.
Fonfara.
Yeah, no, I know he's fighting, but what's it going to be on? NBC?
Not a clue.
Hasn't come out yet.
Well, I was going to say, because earlier on you were saying, it's all dependent on Chavez being a HBO pay-per-view fight. Well, I thought the whole point of it was that Eddie was dealing with Al Heyman.
Yep.
And I can't see Al Heyman working with HBO on a pay-per-view. It's not going to happen, is it? So it's all tied up, really. I can't see it happening in any way, shape or form. I'd like to see it happen. I thought Frochie got too much stick for the fight. I think it's a good scrap. It's a good scrap. He doesn't need legacy fights now. He doesn't need legacy fights. Chavez is a big enough name. He's still bigger than Cole Froch in the ring. He brings it. He's got no defence. It'd be a good scrap.
Yeah, it'd be a good scrap and it would sell well.
Alex?
I'll let Donnie go first before I round this off.
Okay.
Is Alex going to give Froch some prize?
No.
Well, thank you, Alex. No, basically what I'm saying is, like, look, we all know that the big dispute between Chavez and Arum is that Arum says he has one more fight left on his contract. Chavez says, no, I don't. We don't know what the truth of that matter is, but I think what they're doing is they're getting that fight off the books. So they're going to fight Andrew Fonfara, and then let's say Arum sues and says, well, that should have been my fight. And then he'll pay Arum the damages. They'll pay him whatever Arum would have made if the Chavez-Fonfara fight was made. Right? So maybe he'll have to pay Arum $300,000 or $400,000 or whatever it is. They'll get that off the books, and then Chavez is free and clear to fight Froch. So I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to run out that contract, give Arum whatever he would have been owed, and then he's a free agent, if you will. Now he's with Heyman, and I think if Froch just needs to stay busy so he's not out of the ring for like a long, long time before he comes in and fights Chavez. But yeah, not only do I think it's a fight that even older Carl Froch can win, but I think it's also a fight that, well, first of all, obviously has great pay-per-view potential, everything like that. But it's a war. We all know what kind of fighter Froch is, and we all know that whether he trains or doesn't train, Chavez does have some kind of heart in him. And even in fights that he's lost or has appeared to lose, he has never stopped coming, and he's never stopped giving everything in the ring. He may not give everything in the gym, but he does give everything in the ring. And a Froch-Chavez fight is exactly the type of fight that the Mexican-American, households in the United States who would purchase the pay-per-view they would eat that shit up. They would just completely love it. And I think Froch will get that fight, but in the meantime, he does need to stay busy. And I don't necessarily know whether he wants to stay busy against James DeGale, because he's a threatening young prospect. He is the same way Froch was to Calzaghe. You can say that, now Froch is Calzaghe and DeGale is Froch. So I think he needs to stay busy against somebody.
He won't be keeping busy against DeGale, that is for sure.
Yeah, DeGale is not a stay busy fight. That's a difficult fight.
Yeah,
and what he needs to do is he needs to find somebody who has some semblance of a name, but who he can stay busy against, he can reliably win against. And I'm not sure who that is.
But if he doesn't fight DeGale, then he's going to have to give up the title.
Step aside money, maybe, but I don't know.
Alex?
Right, I'll tell you what happens. This is what happens. Bob Arum probably threatened Eddie and Froch, saying, if you try and get a fight with Chavez, we're going to sue your fucking asses. So Eddie fucking Eddie shit his fucking pants, and now he's backed away and they've faked this injury or whatever. And now they're being desperate to get any fight possible for Carl over in America because he wants his Vegas dream. And Eddie's shitting it from Froch now, who's calling the shots, doing whatever he fucking wants, saying, I want these American dates. I don't want to fight James DeGale because James DeGale will fucking beat me. He wants to go to America and fight any cunt for any money because he's desperate now. And this is Hearn in his desperation mode, just like he's desperate for Kell Brook to fight Khan and for Scott Quigg to fight Carl Frampton. They're all fucking desperate. And the only reason Carl Froch has got that fucking elbow injury is because he's tossing himself off in front of the fucking mirror. They're all fucking wankers, alright? And we need to bring this hate back. We can't be praising these cunts too much.
Alex, would you deny Carl Froch a fight in Vegas to end?
Fuck him.
Why?
If it's a good fight, go for it. If he's fighting Golovkin or Kovalev, yeah. He's not owed it. He's not owed it.
I'm not saying he's owed it, but there's far worse fighters far more worse non-American fighters that have managed to fight in Vegas. Naming lights and all that. That I think really, after the career that he's had with the resume he's got, he has lost some along the way. I know, but I think that he kind of does deserve to go out on a high.
All right, go fight Andre Ward over there then.
Yeah, but no one cares about Andre Ward. Did you watch the BT interview he did at the turn of the year? And even the haters, and I watched it with my hater goggles on, which I don't bring out of the closet very often. even you guys would struggle to find holes in what Froch was saying. He said that he probably gets beat by Andre Ward. He admitted that.
Kessler's, but if you can't get the Chavez fight, the Kessler fight is going to be the one with the money. Kessler's still going to draw money in Denmark. The only dispute's going to be here is where the fight is going to be held. Yeah. America's not going to be interested. England, obviously, and the park in Copenhagen is going to be interested. Wherever else, Monaco, other than those three places, I can't think anywhere else that a fight can be held.
Where did he fight? What's his name? Butte in Nottingham.
But I was there that night actually.
10,000. We get 9 or 10,000 in there.
And if you go by what Froch is saying, he doesn't want like a Ward, a Hopkins fight. He wants a fan-friendly type fight if it's going to be his last fight.
He was claiming he wants Hopkins the other day. He's desperate.
Yeah, but if he fights Hopkins, how can he win? Say this panel, how can Froch better himself by fighting Hopkins? If he wins, he's a 50-year-old. If he loses, you got beat.
He doesn't need that fight. He doesn't need that fight.
No. I thought
anyone
that fight
saying knows Hopkins.
I thought that fight was rejected.
By
Gareth Davis saying that in what was it, the Telegraph or something? He says that fight was knocked back.
What are Froch's two titles? Like what organization?
IBF, WBA, regular.
Yeah, that WBA is a fake one.
Well, yeah, all right. I mean, fair enough. But what I'm saying is usually the IBF allows for unifications. Who are the other champs?
Well,
Abraham,
Darrell
has got one. Ward.
He could probably get an exemption from that.
The IBF are waiting. The IBF are waiting for medical reports, and then if they're otherwise minded, they'll give him another 60 days. So that gives him to the summer.
But I mean, maybe he could get out of DeGale if he fought Abraham, for instance, and then, then when he says, okay, now Chavez fights, now Chavez is free, now he fights Chavez, and the IBF would probably like, all right, well, we'll let you have this Chavez fight or something, or maybe he had to pay DeGale some step-aside money or something. But basically, he could use the unification as an excuse to get out of the mandatory, and then he could take the fight he wants to take.
Yeah, but Abraham fights Smith in February. When's he going to fight Froch this summer? And then we're looking into next year for Chavez. I can't see that happening.
They need to strip Carl Froch. I mean, this injury's complete bullshit. I mean, he had absolutely no intention of fighting James DeGale. He had absolutely no intention of unifying. There was no negotiations talks with any of the other champions or anyone, or James DeGale. So they should strip him. There was no plan to keep that belt and defend that belt. So strip him. Don't give him an exemption because he fucking busted his elbow or he's fucking God knows what. Fuck him.
If you needed to pick somebody today, who do you pick between Carl Froch and James DeGale right now?
DeGale.
Tight fight, man. It's a bad style matchup.
It is a bad matchup. That could go anyway.
But I don't blame Froch for not taking that fight. But he shouldn't be keeping DeGale hanging around either.
Yeah.
I don't think DeGale's has got the strongest of chins, but I think that fight it's a toss up that fight actually.
Yeah.
I mean, if Froch is fit and motivated, he's definitely well in a chance. DeGale could box him all night. I just think it's going to come down to basically it's like he's not been as deep about Froch has been, and that's going to be one of the big question marks here. DeGale got that metal if he's got to kind of fight it through at the end. If you look at like.
Yeah, Andre Durrell again. Sorry, Andy. I was going to say I think it's Andre Durrell again. That style, like.
Yeah. If you think about rounds 10, 11, and 12 with the first and second Kessler fights, that is where DeGale's going to have to start proving himself. Yeah. I think.
Yeah, it's really simple. I've said it since the day he beat Groves. It's going to be if he fought DeGale next, it's going to be for less money and it's going to be a more difficult fight. Chavez is the easiest fight available for the most money. It's rather simple.
Right. Next question comes in from Savas. Is it Savas or Macho Grande anyway? Alex, what's more important, respect from the hardcore fans, insiders but less money, or love from the casuals which means more money?
Easy answer.
Obviously, it's about the money, isn't it? I mean, most of them are in it because it's a job. And to some degree, you can't really blame them for that, but I think there should be some sort of balance. Definitely, I think they've got to understand that this is, it's a job for them, but it's also entertainment for fans, and it's also, fans are paying to see certain things and they expect certain things, so they should, live up to that and do part of their job as they're professionals. They should live up to the job title of being, a true professional fighter and appeal to, the hardcore market in the sense of, making properly exciting fights and not just going for knockover jobs for the biggest money.
The thing is, it's been that long since we've had a true, icon of the sport that's been universally recognised by both casuals and hardcore fans, that the attraction to be that is for a fighter nowadays isn't no longer there. They're just going to take the most money, as we see Floyd do every time. But it's been that long since we've had someone that transcends the sports, like Ali or others down the line. It's been that long since we've had one of them. They can't really aspire to that.
De La Hoya,
if you see what I mean.
De La Hoya fought everyone and he got loads of money and he still took on loads of tough challenges. And I'm not the biggest De La Hoya fan, but he didn't need to fight Pernell Whitaker and Trinidad in his prime. And I know he didn't fight Winky Wright and stuff, but you've got to have a limit. You can't fight everyone. He fought a lot of people, Ike Courty and stuff that he didn't have to, and he still got paid shitloads of money. You've got to feel sorry for the little guys though, Adam, because the little guys, they got no choice. They can fight the very best fighters left, right and centre and they still ain't going to get fuck all money.
And I'm an absolute prime example. Prime example because I oddly watch the little guys and I only know them because of what you Kyle, and what Andy says kind of thing. But I know this is going to sound far-fetched, but the best fighter I can think of that has a balance between the casuals and hardcore is probably Canelo, because he does take a lot of fights that you don't have to. I know he's not the greatest.
Recently,
but, there's potential.
Only recently, mind you.
Only recently.
When he first won that WBC title at 154, by the way, his reign of terror was complete and utter shit.
Yeah.
And I was very critical of him.
Josecito Lopez wasn't a natural junior middle-weight.
Dragging him up light welter as well.
You haven't taken a piss, mate. He was like Kalule in his prime, mate, that kid.
Who remembers Jose Cotto actually staggering him at welterweight as well with a left hook? Stood him up on it as well.
That was Miguel. He just grew a little goatee for that fight and went under assumed name. It's the only way you get the fight.
I mean, look at some of the trash that he's fought. Well, I'll not say trash, right? But Matthew Hatton didn't make weight for that fight, okay? Ryan Rhodes forced to wait 18 months. Alfonso Gomez, right?
Bad.
He's another one. He was another light welterweight. Kermit Cintron actually vacates the ring quicker than what fucking Sam Watson did getting into it last week against Deontay Wilder. Shane Mosley shot the shit. Josecito Lopez, Austin Trout, that was his best victory at fucking light welterweight. Sorry, light middleweight. Sorry.
Alfonso Lopez was a welterweight though.
Alfonso Gomez.
Yeah, he was a welterweight. He fought Soto Carras and Cotto.
That fight was at light middleweight though, mate.
Yeah, but Canelo's never been a welterweight.
You said he was a light welterweight though. I was just saying he was a welterweight. He wasn't that small. He wasn't Josecito Lopez too. Cotto was. He was a lightweight, wasn't he?
That's what it was. It was a Castillo fight. It was at 145. That's what it was. Who else? I mean, okay, he got absolutely schooled with Mayweather, but he wanted the fight. That was a change actually after the Lopez fight. I think he actually wanted the big fights. He took the Trout fight. He took the Mayweather fight. Okay, Angulo was a kind of comeback fight. But then when Lara started calling him out, I think we were all kind of saying, look, fight Lara. He is a number 2 in the division. Fight him.
Yeah, but there can't have been that much money in the Lara fight, and he still takes.
There's money. There's money in any Canelo fight.
Yeah, there is. Next question, Kurt from Nathan Newman. I think we kind of covered it slightly, but just give me your final thoughts on it. Is this really the best we've seen of Rios, or was Alvarado really that bad?
Alvarado was shocking.
Yeah, Alvarado was pretty shocking, and a whole host of welterweights would have done that to him, I think. But Brandon Rios, give him credit, he looked in much better shape and he done what he needed to do. Now, he's made himself relevant again. I mean, people saying he was shot and his career's on the line now. People are talking about other fights for him now, and there's a few guys he can put him with, and Rios is usually good value, so I think he won't have any problem finding a good opponent.
Topical answer: Frankie Gavin would have knocked out Mike Alvarado last night.
That is a statement and a half. Christ.
No, he's bombing Frankie Gavin's army match.
My 86-year-old grandmother with 2 hip operations, diabetes, and dementia could have fucking knocked out Alvarado last night. Kyle Lee Davis is asking. Now, I've normally went to Adam with this one, but I'll get a fresh perspective and opinion from yourself. Lee Davis is asking, could Wembley Stadium sell out for a boxing event without Sky and Matchroom hype machine behind it? Chuck in Talk Sport as well. They do a fantastic job selling fights to the wider public.
Maybe. Sorry, I've just seen a little message here that's got me in stitches.
See this chat on the fucking Skype. It needs to stop because every time I hear the kind of wee beep coming up all the time, I'm like, can I
sorry,
tune it out?
sorry. They want me to send it, so I'll blame it someone else.
Cut that shocking, mate. That's fucking.
No, you can't fucking say that, mate. You can't say. It's funny though. Anyway, sorry. No, I don't think it could because unless it was a sort of an Al Heyman special with a Floyd versus Khan off the book sort of thing, which I guess would be on Sky anyway. Unless it was on terrestrial, it's all pulling shit out of the air, really. But no, I don't think it could because there's so many people who's sucking Eddie off online. And I'm not an Eddie Hearn hater, don't get it wrong. I'm just saying facts. So many people that are sucking him off online, and they're the kind of people that you need to turn out in droves. The kind of people that can get steaming and go and see a fight. No, I don't think Wembley Stadium could sell out without the London contingent. They're all sucking Eddie Hearn off and all the travelling people coming down to see the fight. I don't think it could at all. Maybe if... No, I don't think it could. I think Eddie Hearn, for all of his faults, he has made boxing quite commercial just for the fact that he retweets people and people feel involved again. Whereas before, feeling involved was talking about it to your mates on the Monday after, seeing it on Sunday when it was actually on a Saturday, but they showed it on ITV on a Sunday afternoon or whatever. And you talk about it to your mates and that. I'm talking about before I was even in the boxing, do you know what I mean? When boxing, Frank Bruno and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? Whether it was on live or not, that's what made boxing big. People wanted to talk about it to their mates. Nowadays, it's all about Eddie Hearn retweets you and you go, oh yeah, boys, let's go and see the Eddie Hearn fight sort of thing. The Matchroom card. Scott Quigg, he's the best fighter and he's a world champion. He's a real world champion. Anthony Joshua, the future legends on the card. You know what I mean? It's all about the hype machine. And I do definitely think Eddie, for all his faults, and I'm not, again, I'm not one of his knob suckers online, but he has done some good things, and that is the commercialisation, again, of boxing over here. Because, it's always had a good following. But now he's selling out Wembley and stuff like that. I think he's done all right, really.
I'll give you an example. I saw 4 lads from who I went to uni with at Wembley last year. Not seen them for a while. They paid £100 a ticket, if not more, and they didn't know any fighter on the undercard whatsoever. And so the short answer to the question is no. And I agree with Kyle that we see through and we don't like a lot of the Matchroom bullshit, but he has done some good things.
I think Kyle's going to get a wee bit of hate for some of the comments about Eddie.
Kyle, it happens. You just have to stay unbiased, Kyle.
I ain't reading it, but I ain't reading it, mate. But if they want to come at me at Ferocious Flea on Twitter, you can go fuck yourself. Let's have it online. Just fucking have it.
I think you can maybe get a wee bit of abuse on your own forum, actually, mate, tomorrow when this is.
I don't give a fuck, mate. You know me, and if they want to come at me, mate, come at me. I'll make it look like the biggest cunt ever, mate. Simple as.
You fucking rat.
Daniel Stone's actually asking if we want to discuss the No Mas fight, but what we'll do is I'm actually going to save that for a show in a fortnight's time because obviously we're going to be shy on some fights, so we're actually looking around and looking at some discussions. We've got some lined up for next week, so I think we'll put that discussion into the second week.
Are we going to do the top 10 South Korean light flyweight champions of all time as well? Because I know everyone's itching to hear that one.
I was actually my list ready.
I was actually wanting to do the actual Burma, the Burmese super welterweight.
Oh yeah, brilliant, yeah, Burmese left Y fighters, yeah, that'd be great. Well up for that.
Can we do top 15 instead? I couldn't fit him into top 10.
Yeah, sad thing is I actually couldn't, which is really sad. But
there's no Burmese fighters left after Rambo killed them all in that fucking Rambo.
They're still there, mate. Don't worry.
Donny, anyway, Daniel Stone's asking and says, "Will Hay ever come back?" And a fantasy fight, Hay versus Bruno. Who wins and how many rounds would it take AJ to KO a peak Lewis?
There was like 5 questions there.
Three. Will Hay come back?
No.
Right, fantasy fight, Hay versus Bruno. Who wins and how many rounds would AJ take to KO a peak Lennox Lewis?
Bruno wins in about 11 rounds, and okay, and then what was the third one?
How many rounds does AJ need to beat a Pete Lewis?
2.
2 rounds. There we go. Chinny Lewis. But I'll tell you what,
I'm sorry,
Bruno,
just a little bit.
around.
I'm a little bit influenced by Nick Holling. I've just been talking with him a lot recently, and so I mean that's what he told me. So he knows more about boxing than I do. So.
Donny, I want to know why your answer on David Haye coming back was so confident in no.
He's not going to come. I mean, he might try some shit in like 3 years, like coming back against somebody. He'll either try to come back against somebody legit and get blown out because he's been out of the ring for like however many years, or he'll come back against the journeyman and then, there'll be some talk about a big fight after he looks good against the journeyman, and then all that talk will be mooted when David Haye pulls out. And the guy is more unpredictable than the stock market or the lottery. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, to me, David Haye is dead to me. I mean, he hasn't done anything in boxing in years, and I don't even think. I mean, I think same way we don't discuss Fighter A and Fighter B in the same sentence on this podcast, David Haye should be Fighter C. He shouldn't come up at all unless he's going to be in the fucking ring.
I do agree that he's screwed fans over in recent years, pulling out, etc. But you've got to remember he's only 34, so we've got potentially another 10 years of rumours or suggestions that David Haye could make a comeback. He ain't got that many miles on the clock at all. And I think I can definitely see him coming back. And the bottom line is, with the Sky back in, Eddie will suck him off straight away, no problem. He's only 1 or 2 fights away from a pay-per-view. Whichever way you look at it, he's only 1 or 2 fights away from pay-per-view. Especially if Fury gets in on the world title scene, and if and when Vladimir retires.
To be honest, my opinion, to me, David Haye is dead to me as well. I was a stupid cunt that fucking paid money to go and watch him, thinking he was going to pull it off.
That's
just turned up and gave us like a limp wristed performance. Absolutely shocking.
Limp toe performance.
Yeah, didn't fucking. The thing is, all these pullouts and stuff, and when you hear him actually apologising to fans on an interview he did with Kugan Cassius, these mannerisms and his facial expressions were more along the lines of, I couldn't give a fuck really. He's paid me whatever amount of millions, just keep paying me more. So to me, he's dead. Next question. Who will I go to? Steve. This is from Strangeways21. What was that mess last night? The shittiest, most tragic rubber match of all time. I don't know if Strangeways hasn't seen that third fight between fucking Duran and Leonard. That was a shit fest.
Yeah, that was a shit fest, wasn't it?
Ruiz and Holyfield.
Well, I was going to say I was going up, flicking onto YouTube to try and see the Ruiz Holyfield to cheer me up, because that was bad. That was bad stuff, wasn't it?
It's not a true rubber match, but Marquez Vasquez Farr was pretty shitty.
Yeah, that was terrible. Good shout.
I don't think I saw that one actually. It was tragic last night. I've said, made my feelings known on Alvarado. It goes beyond boxing with him. He's the only way he can save himself is by going off on a desert island somewhere, because that guy he's an accident waiting to happen. So, but as for a rubber match, especially considering the first 2 fights were so good, I really enjoyed them. Especially the second fight, that was a brilliant fight, and Alvarado was just a complete shell of himself. And well, how much has the Provodnikov beating and the Marquez knockout as well taken out of him? Don't forget, he's not just been arsing about outside of the ring, but he's been taking a few clonkings inside it as well. But he's, the brain damage isn't far off, and I do feel a bit sorry for him.
Sorry, mate. That's not talking about you, Steve. Sorry, mate. Alex Paul is asking, how many days until this is the right question for you. How many days will it be until Hearn refers to Brook versus Rios as a mega fight?
He's going nowhere near that fight, I don't think. Sort of agree with Donny on that point, that he's quite scared. He'll be scared of Rios because Rios is too much of a threat. Though he won't be mentioning Rios at all. He'll be a bit of a Voldemort, like a Rigondeaux to him. Brooke,
yeah, I mean, why would he ever want to say something like that? I mean, to me, that's the style that's all wrong for him. That's like Khan calling out Thurman, and I'm a Khan fan, but like, let's be honest, like that's the fight you don't want if you're a Khan fan, just like Rios is the fight you don't want if you're a Brook fan. Just
I
like
can't believe we're talking Rios up so much here. I mean, come on. We've
Well,
just mentioned-
I'm not a fan
I
of.
think Jojo Dan might make Brooke look a bit shit, to be honest with you.
I do.
Because he's going to force him to lead. And Brooks very much a guy who relies on getting his timing down and being a natural counterpuncher.
Who was the
And
last
Dan's
southpaw
gonna
he
be-
fought?
I don't know, it was Senchenko a southpaw? No, he's not, is he?
No, I don't
But
think
he
so.
hurt Brooke. He buzzed Brooke at one point.
Yeah.
I mean,
And he
who
can't
knows what
punch for
Brooke is?
shit.
Who knows what Brooke is going to look like after getting quadricep muscle completely, torn apart by a machete? I mean,
Donnie, I've got it on good authority that this is the best shape he's been in this far away from a fight.
well, yeah, well, that's because
They're always going to say that.
he was doing the Charlie before the other fights, so
Ooh.
Whoa.
Tommy Allen online.
Allegedly.
What are you making these baseless accusations for, Donnie?
what kind of shape was he in for Carson Jones #1? Because I mean, he couldn't have been in that good shape for that. So I mean, all right, now he got his leg torn apart. Maybe he's got his life together. God bless him for that. But I'm just saying, like, if this is the best shape he's been in, what does that say about the shape he's been in for his previous fights?
He's been in shit shape, sure we know that, hasn't he? He's been going up to light middleweight for all these little fights in between, and I mean, I don't know what he's like for living the life outside of the ring. I mean, from a dietary point of view.
I think Danny brings up a good point though. No one truly knows how Cal will look until he's in the ring. The ring will expose whatever condition he's in. They're going to tell you he's in the best shape ever. They're going to tell you he's looking fantastic. But that, when he was attacked and you saw the pictures of the injury, it was tough to say whether he'd be back at all. And then when they started talking about a March return, I didn't think it would happen myself. But now it's going to happen. You just don't know until he gets to the ring. I mean, he should beat a Jojo Dan, but he's a Jojo Dan's a decent fighter who can give him a bit of trouble, and you just don't know how that injury has affected him and what he will look like.
Again, I just don't think that, as I was saying earlier, they're desperate for the Khan fight. They're not going to put him in with anyone significant. They're just going to do exactly what they've been doing with Scott Quigg. They're going to be putting him in with knockover jobs, bringing over the South Americans, hyping them up until they get the Khan fight. They're just waiting for that, and that's the game plan. Rios represents too much of a threat. I mean, I don't think that Rios is a particularly excellent fighter or a particularly good fighter. I think he's borderline B fighter at best, but he's still too much of a threat for Kell Brook at this stage.
I think that they're treating Kell Brook a little bit different to the likes of McDonnell and Quigg, as they should be, correctly so. Because there's some really big paydays at the division, and I think they're treating him as a bona fide champion, which he is really.
Okay, Andrew Lee Evans is asking Kurt, as we see more and more of a spasticated boxing tweets daily, who's to blame for this uprise, Hearn, or does it go deeper than him?
No, it goes deeper than him. Whether Hearn was here or not, there'd still be all these crazy tweets. But he has done a lot for boxing over the past few years in this country. But he's brought a lot of what you'd call a part-time fan, a casual fan, whatever. And some of them who have no idea what they're talking about are talking about it on Twitter, and some of them are making fools themselves. But at least he's bringing fans in, and that's good for the sport in the end.
But what it is, Kurt, there's you have to remember that Eddie's going to prefer people like that because they're the ones that buy tickets, and the more people that buy tickets, the better fights they can put on. Because as we've said quite regularly before, there's not many people on here that buy tickets, never mind pay-per-view. So we're not the target market, unfortunately.
On that topic quickly, but Han in particular, I mean, I give Han plenty of stick, but he's not the one to blame necessarily. I mean, it was happening long before he adopted sort of social media and, sort of used it to his own gains. I mean, look at all those knobheads who write up Paulie Malignaggi's ass. Look at those knobheads who are on Lucas Brown's ass. It's just, I think it's idiots in general going on there, and, certain boxers and certain people know to understand that a lot of people are very needy and pathetic like that, and they seek the approval of their so-called idols or people that are just slightly more important than them. So I think it's just clever people abusing that fact.
See Twitter when the pay-per-view was announced for Bellew Cleverly, by the way, I've never heard or read so much long-tardedness in my complete and utter Nelly. I mean, it was so bad that there was one particular Twitter account that they got set up what does it say, retweet Eddie or something like that? You know, just some of the comments that was getting made to Eddie Hearn at that time.
Wasn't it something to do with lick arse or something like that?
Arse licker, that's what it was. Arse licker.
Yeah, arse licker.
I know
Mr.
who.
Arse licker. Yeah.
I know who runs it, the accounts. I'll not say who. It's not me though. But you know, just some of the comments that the guys were retweeting was fucking hilarious. I mean, I really think so. Either A, some of these guys are getting paid to do that, or B, they're just absolutely, as Andrew Lee Evans just says, they're spasticated. There's something wrong.
I think that's one of the advantages that Eddie has had over someone like Frank Warren, who's been stuck a bit in the dark ages. I think Eddie saw, you know, how social media works now, and look at much fans he's got through that alone, whereas Warren has slowly get onto it. Same with something like YouTube with I Film London. You know, Eddie's made a big deal out of that and got his face, you know, shown and answered questions. And for a promoter, you know, usually you don't get to hear them speak much, or you only hear them at a fight and they're towing the party line, they're talking about their fighters. But Eddie's done, you know, he's answered the questions, and it looks good to fans whether you like him or not. It looks good that he's putting himself out there, whereas Frank Warren, for instance, hasn't really done that. It's only recently he started doing that.
Next question. Strange Ways again. I'm actually going to leave that because that's actually getting put in at the Belly of the Week. Rocco's asking Adam, in fact, who have I not asked a question to recently? I'm actually losing.
No, you have actually, haven't you? No, you have actually. I don't really care anyway.
Right, Steve.
Else.
Rocco's asking, don't know if it could be made now, but would you like to see, and how do you see a fight between Rios and Cloner?
Rios against Cloner?
Yeah.
Well, if Rios can maintain the sort of output that he showed last night, he'd obviously give Cloner problems, because Cloner usually throws about 4 punches around, but neither of them really live well. I mean, I'm sort of thought Rios could put the pressure on him and make him work, but I mean, I suppose it was a lot about what Rios was up against last night. Is he really this full-on pressure fighter who's going to be stalking you for 12 rounds? And I suppose if my neck was on the line, I'd have to side with the old Cloner, I think, to beat Rios.
Be a great build-up in that one as well.
Yeah, there'd be some shit talked, wouldn't there? Boner would be bringing out his flipping Christmas cracker jokes that he brings out before every fight, and Rios talks some shit too, doesn't he? I imagine the weight condition, the poor weight condition the pair of them would be in lead up to the fight, like, because neither of them have history of training particularly well, but Cloner, for me, I think Cloner beat Rios.
They need to be held at fat bastard weight, wouldn't it?
That's what I was trying to get out. Like, I was wondering what type of weight they would run it at.
Just a point on Rios. On the last fight, I was reading earlier that he went to Colorado 2 weeks previous, 2 weeks before the fight. So he did his last part of training at altitude and that. So it really was make or break for him, and you know he definitely deserved the win. Although Alvarado was shocking.
But with a Broner fight, that's a type of fight that you could see Rios being really up for, and he'd want to put a hurting on someone like Broner.
Imagine the talk before that fight. Imagine the shit talk.
It'd be good.
Fucking hell. That'd be brilliant. Rocco's asking another question. Adam, in fact, it's to everyone actually. Manny Pacquiao came to have dinner with Prince Harry. Which boxer would you like to come to yours for dinner? Adam, I know what your answer's going to be.
Yeah, you know my answer, sorry.
So,
would Frutch bring all his belts with him as well?
Hopefully, yeah.
I would bring Jermaine Taylor personally.
You might shoot up your family though.
The thing is, well, he'll not be able to kill anyone because he'll gasp before he gets to that point.
If you burnt the soup, you'd be in for it, man.
He'd change the TV with his gun, wouldn't he? Just shoot at it.
We'd put a metal detector at the door.
The thing is, if you invite Amir Khan round about for dinner, you need to sit on the floor and eat with your fingers. Kurt, is it Big Vladimir for you?
No, I'll have to have a think about this one. This is a good question.
Kyle?
Who do I have round for dinner?
Yeah.
Carl Froch, because he makes a warrior dinner. Proper warriors.
Carol Froch, and you can maybe poison his food.
No, I don't hate him, mate. I think he's alright. I love for him to come round and, have a good old chat with me about, how much of a warrior he is and, how he gives it to his missus, and and if I said to him, if I didn't ask him for seconds, he might tell me how disrespectful that was.
Steve?
I think I'd invite round someone like Hecky Budler or something, because one of them wee lads, they're not going to eat too much, are they? So it wouldn't cost you a whole pile.
Hey, I didn't know you were Scottish with that tight attitude.
I like that one actually. I think Alex isn't back yet, but
No. I think
I would say Adonis Stevenson, see if he brings any of his birds run about with him. So
I think you gotta look for something like a bit of eye candy, Keller Maloney. Why not?
What about Brony? He'd eat you at the house, wouldn't he? Would you imagine? You'd have to order a test.
Chavez Jr. to bring the weed.
You would actually need to fucking Vaseline the hinge of the doors just so you can get him fucking through the fucking thing. But
he brought his dad with him.
I would probably Christina.
His 6 kids.
Probably Christina Hammer or Cecilia Brackus. That's who I would have to say.
Why is that?
You never seen them, like. Oof. Remember, I said Christina, not Christian.
Oh, right.
Christina.
Frank Warren Wan have Terry Marsh on the roof across the street with his gun ready.
Sniper rifle.
Just a joke.
Marcus Bellinger's got a good question actually for the pod. Who are the 5 worst duckers in the sport today? He says Koki, Quack Quack, Kameda has to be one of them. He's obviously referring to the Anselmo Moreno fight. He dropped the WBA belt and moved back down to super flyweight because Moreno was #1 contender, I think, for the unification of the super belt. Obviously Adonis Stevenson's got to be on there.
Yeah. Koki Kameda's fought some good fighters, mate. He ain't that fucking...
I know what I mean. I know what you mean, mate. But you see, his bantamweight reign is fucking terrible.
Yeah, but who want to fight Marino anyway? Marino's boring as fuck.
And Stevenson's fought some great fighters too, and then he became a ducker. I mean, the question is posed in terms of the present day, not in terms of what he did.
Darnell Boone's great. Darnell Boone's a legend.
I think you just need to look at a few Heyman fighters. I mean,
Santa Cruz.
Quilling.
There's Heyman himself who's the ducker, innit? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Santa Cruz, yep, definitely. What about Scott Quigg?
No, everyone else ducks Scott Quigg.
Fuck off, he's fucking shit.
Don't really blame Quigg. You can put him in his own sort of little category, can't you? You go and fight off in the corner there, Scott. You know what I mean? Like the WBA belt there. We'll call you when the dinner's ready.
He didn't even fight the decent Japanese super bantamweight. He fought the guy no one had heard of. The hardcores at least heard of Shingo Wake. And they're like, no, Eddie Hearn, we got a better one than that. Hold on, I ain't even heard of this fella. And I consider myself in touch with the Japanese boxing scene. Barely even heard of him, and he gave Quigg a good fight. Quigg is a nice lad, but mediocre, let's be honest, Adam.
Well, the only thing that's wrong with Quigg is that he's been gifted this horrible belt, and he's got to live up to the world champion mantra that Sky and Eddie lay on him, really.
Kyle, what about Kazuto Ioka dumped the WBA belt at light flyweight to avoid, again, this kind of unification fight with Gonzalez moved up to flyweight?
Yeah, but then again, he was fighting decent opposition about 5 or 6 fights into his career, mate. So, I don't really think you can call him a ducker. And, okay, at the time, people thought he would probably beat Amnat Ruinring. But he's a good fighter as well. Okay, he hasn't taken on Gonzalez, but you could say that about a fair few people, really. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
People would say now, why isn't Estrada rematching Gonzalez? Why isn't Gonzalez rematching Estrada? Are they ducking? Why are they asking for so much money? Are they ducking? And I think, we're lucky, really, because for nearly 25 years, we never had any decent fights at the lower weights, and we're spoilt for choice at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't think Ioka's ducking. I think he's probably just waiting for a payday against, I don't know, Inoue or someone like that, or maybe the Koei Kono or someone like that. I don't know, but I don't really think he's a ducker. He fought Yagashi about 6 fights into his career, and he made a good fight of it. So I don't think you could really call him a ducker. He didn't fight no one at light flyweight, but I don't think he was a ducker. He moved up to a better weight class. So.
Yeah. I think top 5's got to be Stevenson, Quillen, Santa Cruz, Mayweather. I think we've got.
I was just going to say that actually. Kurt, what do you think about Mayweather getting put on that list?
He's not there.
Me and Kurt have been quite vocal all day on the forum actually about this shit.
Yeah, well, we've known about. We're looking at now this fight with fighter B or whatever it is. I can't remember who's who, but I mean, if the fight doesn't happen now, which it doesn't look like it's gonna fall back on Mayweather again by the looks of it. I mean, they've looked like they've agreed to it, and now he's gonna fight Cotto. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, I suppose you would. Some people say, well, look who he's fought, and he's fought a lot of Hall of Famers and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, with the fight we all want to see hasn't happened, and I think you'd look at Pacquiao, who he's fought. I mean, he's fought, in my opinion, better guys for most of the time.
Chuck David Hay on the list as well. What about, this might be incorrect, Kyle will probably answer this, Chris John?
Yeah, you could say Chris John. He did fight Marquez. It was like he fought Marquez and he was like, right, that's the last I'm having of any sort of live bodies. Juarez was sort of a fringe contender / gatekeeper at that point when he fought him. He fought him twice, admittedly. Yeah, I mean, he fought some decent sort of Far East fighters, some decent-ish prospects, so to speak, but none of the top featherweights really, and the fight with Marquez was a stinker anyway, but he's one of these guys out in the Far East, probably getting paid better to take on soft touches in Indonesia, and no one wants to pay him to get him over on HBO, and they did. They tried to make big fights for him on HBO. I think they wanted to mix him up with Caballero and Gamboa. Caballero never made the fight, Gamboa never made the fight, Caballero and Gamboa wouldn't fight each other, so it just fell out of bed really, and by the time Chris John lost against Vetjeko, who's a good fighter, wasn't really seen as much of a challenge. He'd been making featherweight for years. He's probably more of a natural lightweight at that point, and he was shot basically. And he's physically shot. So yeah, he's probably one of the worst ever long reigning featherweight champions. But in his day, he was a pretty decent fighter.
He was. He found his little niche, didn't he? But you're right about the Marquez fight. I remember that. Marquez got a load of points deducted, didn't he, for low blows? It
was a diabolical fight anyway, because Marquez couldn't lead at that point, and he was a pure counter-puncher, and Chris John was always moving backwards. So you said basically a complete negative matchup, and it was just, it's dismal, mate. Mm-hmm. They say it's one for the purists, but maybe not. I don't even agree with that. I love a good boxing match, and that's just fucking shit, man.
Yeah, he fought Jordan as well, didn't he? Jordan's had a decent enough performances as well.
Daryl Jordan's a good fighter, actually. I was really surprised when he gave Caballero a good fight, and obviously he gave Guerrero a decent fight before Guerrero pulled out for the no contest. He got sat on his ass by Caballero, but he still gave it a good go. And that was what really surprised me when Vetjeko stopped Jordan in the last round, because Jordan is tough as nails, man. He always gives it his all, and he's a pretty good fighter.
Right, next question. Very briefly, lads. It's either a yes or no answer for this one, I think. This is from Boxing Tip Advice. Should Marquez still be rated so highly pound for pound, barring a once-in-a-lifetime punch versus Pacquiao in a fight he was probably going to lose on points? He has done very little pound for pound worthy in the last 4 years. What do you think?
Well, I don't know, actually. I think, to be honest with you, Marquez is... Sorry, did you just send that out there? Or did you ask Alex?
I just send it out there, eh?
Well, Marquez, let's be honest, we had a bit of a joke last week about bicycle races, but the fact of the matter is that he's prolonged his career by certain means. Won't really go into it so much, but at lightweight, his legs looked to be leaving him. He was the main man at lightweight. A lot of people say Nate Campbell was, but he moved up and didn't look all that. He was the main man at lightweight after being Juan Diaz and Katsidas and Casamoyo and what have you. Moved up to fight Mayweather. You can't really take any pound for pound kudos, credential, mythical points off him for that. In my opinion, he didn't just knock Pacquiao out. He beat him in the third fight as well. The guy he fought for the light welterweight title, is it Fedchenko? Just average Eastern European export, nothing special at all. Alvarado had a bit of hype at the time, I suppose, even though he was getting pasted left, right and centre. But yeah, you can't really say he's only knocked out Pacquiao. The fact of the matter is he knocked out Manny Pacquiao, who at that point people still weren't sure whether him or Floyd were the number one pound for pound. And, Marquez is old, but he's still got it. And even when he lost to Bradley, it was a fairly close enough fight, do you know what I mean? It was one of them fights, what do you like? Do you like the cleaner punching or do you like the flashier stuff? And, Marquez went tit for tat with a top 10 pound for pound fighter, he's still very much in it. People have Golovkin in a top 10 pound for pound. I love Golovkin, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love him. You cannot be ranked in a top 5 pound for pound for knocking out the likes of Daniel Gill and Marco Antonio Rubio. The same fuckers who got Golovkin top 5 probably wouldn't have Roman Gonzalez top 10.
Well, I've drawn this issue before with Golovkin as well. I mean, I'm one of his biggest fans, but he's not top 10 at the moment. But the thing is with Marquez, it's what have you done with me? What have you done for me lately? I mean, he hasn't done a lot. He's fighting once a year at the moment. The Pacquiao knockout was over 2 years ago now. How long can he live off of that in the pound for pound rankings? Do you consider pound for pound rankings to be something that reflects recent activity, or do you go for the whole career?
No, definitely.
Obviously, Marquez.
Go on.
Now, obviously, Marquez deserves to be there for his whole career, but, he's not done a lot lately. He beat Mike Alvarado, but we've seen the sort of state that Alvarado's been in lately. How much is that worth? Timothy Bradley beat him, but, can you keep him in there because it was a close loss-ish, Like I said, Pacquiao knockout was 2 years ago. How long can we keep him there?
That's a fair comment, but my only thing would be who has done more lately to go ahead of him. I'd rather have someone who's done something really incredible not that long ago, a couple of years back, than someone who's had a few decent wins more recently. I wouldn't necessarily say that Crawford beating Beltran, Burns and Gamboa, well, the Gamboa win was decent, but he ain't done much lately, is so much better than going close with Bradley and knocking out Pacquiao. Do you know what I mean? I don't really think that a few decent world level wins are that better than going tit for tat with pound for pound entrance. Then again, I'm the kind of guy who necessarily doesn't say, oh, well, he lost, so you can't give me any credit for it. I'll give guys a lot of credit if they perform admirably in a loss. At the same time, Marquez, he's doing something to keep him up there. You've got to think about that as well.
I agree mostly, but I'm just trying to think what I was going to say then. No, I've completely lost my thought. Never mind.
I'm dreadfully sorry.
And I think he's had a knee injury as well, hasn't he, which has delayed his next fight. So
too much
for me, Yep. But I think I can see what Carl's saying, to be honest. I mean, who's he lost to? He's lost to Tim Bradley, who's obviously up there, and he sparked Pacquiao. He battered Alvarado. I mean, for me, he's only lost to top fighters. He's not losing to fighters that are way below his level. And
sorry, I thought of my point again. It's the point of his relevancy though at the moment, isn't it? I mean, you brought up Crawford, but Crawford is a very relevant fighter at the moment. He is, on the forefront of pretty much everyone's tongues. Everyone's talking about him as being joint fighter of the year last year. Very close to he is the guy that a lot of people are watching out for. Whereas Marquez, what's he doing? Who's he fighting next?
Fair comment.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be May since he last fought, so he'll be getting removed from all ranking lists.
Ward is exactly the same. Look at Andre Ward. He hasn't lost a single fight. He hasn't looked bad in a single fight. But people are tossing him off the list. So
tossing him off.
Wow. Anymore?
No, I've got a question in here, a weekly question from Shep.
Hey.
In his usual style, as always, can the panel please rank on a scale of unpreparedness? Okay, now get ready to note this down. 1941, Pearl Harbor Seaman. 1963, John F. Kennedy's cranium. 1986, the Chernobyl janitor. 1994, Nicole Brown Simpson. 2011, Ched Evans lover. Or 2015, Mike Alvarado.
Fucking
I actually thought, when you said the unprepared, I thought this was going to be a legit question as well. I thought he was going to name boxers who have turned up unprepared. Silly me.
Andy, I've got another one. 2014, Anthony Fitzgerald against Spike O'Sullivan. That was bad.
True,
that was bad.
I'll tell you what, actually, was Spike unprepared for that fucking still coming in the ring?
The thing was about Fitz, though, the poor thing about poor old Fitz was he was prepared. He'd been out in the MGM Marbella for about the last 10 weeks, getting into the complete shape of his life.
So, rank them in order. What do you want to?
I just think.
I don't think we should touch that.
Yeah, we'll move on.
He's a genius, Shep. You're a genius, man.
Yeah.
I think Alvarado, he's with them anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Neck and neck with Pearl Harbor.
Fucking right.
Now, our very own David Hater Lowback has asked this last question before we move on to Bellew of the Week for the whole panel. Your hardest puncher pound for pound in the sport today, and B, who had the hardest dick when they heard about Matisse Provodnikov getting made, or potentially getting made?
I think that was Andy.
I don't know, like
Matty D.
D and fucking, what do you call him? Patton Dean from the forum. He's a big Provodnikov nut hugger. But hardest pound for pound puncher is going to be Kovalev, surely.
One punch power, personally, I think Stevenson hits harder one punch.
Obviously, Audley Harrison.
Yeah, obviously.
That big left hook.
Andy Joshua. I'm taking the piss. Vladimir Klitschko's the hardest puncher in boxing.
Yeah.
Louis Concepcion hits really hard down at flyweight as well. I think he's moved up to super flyweight now, but down at flyweight he was a devastating puncher.
Let's not forget Tony Bellew as well.
Darnell Boone.
For one punch power? Maybe.
He's one of the most dangerous journeymen going, isn't he?
Randall Bailey again. I mean, he's not really doing anything, is he? But that guy, he just brushes you with his right hand and you go.
If we're talking strictly one punch power, not because if we were talking generalized power, I would say Golovkin.
Oh, Bellew, man, he carries power.
I carry power.
Johnny Gonzalez.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, Gonzalez.
Well, yeah, you got that, and I was going to say, Golovkin to me is the most dangerous power puncher in boxing. But if you're talking strictly one punch power, how about a shout for Andy Lee?
Yeah. Andy Lee, it's really hard.
He seems when he gets you with the right shot, guys just go down like they've been shot.
Yeah.
Paulie Malignaggi for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Who's that Yemeni? He knocks them all out.
Ali Ramani.
I emailed him the other day. I said to him, "Can I ask you some questions?" And he was like, "Send me the nice ones." I was like, "Nah, you're all right."
Have you seen it? Have you seen any of his fights on YouTube?
Yeah.
He's a fucking monster, mate.
He's a monster.
He is a monster.
He is wide open for punches, man. He just comes in
and
punches at the body.
He's not. He's a textbook. He's a textbook composite combination puncher. He's like a little Yemeni Joe Louis. What are you talking about, mate?
Yeah, speaking of like people from Arab descent, what about Cal Yafai? What the hell is he doing these days?
He's
injured, isn't
he?
He's always injured,
isn't soon. I think. He's fighting on the Birmingham show, isn't he?
He fought in Dublin there against someone. I just remember seeing him for some
he looked
continental
so good
belt
years ago, and then he had injuries or something. I was just thinking like, what the hell happened to him?
Anyway, Vladimir Klitschko is the hardest puncher. The left hook, hardest puncher pound for pound.
I mean, he is a heavyweight, but
what's that?
Yes, I know that recently he stopped his last two guys, but those guys were knockover jobs. I mean,
yeah, but he's knocked over everybody else. Everyone he fights, he knocks down.
Stop so late. It's accumulation. They get hit with that jab over and over and over.
Knocked out Ray Austin. Knocked out Ray Austin with one punch. Knocked out
Calvin Brock.
What was that?
Brock, Eddie Chambers. Yeah, well, it's not about who's the most recent hard puncher. He's always been a hard puncher. He's always been one of the hardest punchers in the sport.
I'm not saying he's not, but like I just said, I mean, the answer that I was trying to give was particularly with one punch power. That's why I, passed over Golovkin to talk about Andy Lee. I'm saying, who's got the one punch power? Stevenson, honestly, like, much as I don't like him, it's another guy is a good shout for one punch power. But like, to me, the sort of epitome of a guy who can knock you out with one shot is like a Tyson or something. But like, who's most like that today in boxing?
Well, David Price.
Klitschko.
Maybe.
I still think Klitschko. I don't think Andy Lee. It's really hard, but he didn't spark out Korobov. He really hurt him. And the other guys, he sparked out a kind of fringe contender types, the likes of Julian Jackson's Nipper. Do you know what I mean? Like good fighters, but I think to be one of the hardest punchers, you have to be knocking out sort of good top level opposition. And Klitschko, okay, people say his division isn't the strongest, but the fact of the matter is he knocks down everyone, and everyone that doesn't get back up stays flat out. He's a proper old school one punch knockout artist, I'd say. Bradley Skeet as well, obviously.
Paulie Malignaggi as well.
Yeah.
Paulie.
Who's that lightweight as well? He's got about one knockout.
Oh, the Argentinian, Cecina or something.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Fucking awful.
Roman Gonzalez.
Nicholas Walters, it's hard and all.
Yeah, the X-Man.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Is a beast. Yeah, but the thing is, we'll have to see how big of a puncher he really is, because he's just huge for that featherweight division. if he moves up to division and still knocking guys over like that, I'll be impressed. But
I think he weighed like 139 in the ring, which is only 3 pounds more than Lomachenko weighed for his last fight.
Okay. He just looks massive in my
Admittedly, that's because Donaire and Darchinian are fucking naturally small. Well, they're like kind of natural super featherweights. They always have been. So they've always been weighing in around sort of 130-ish, just maybe a tad over. So he looks much bigger than them. But I think if he was to fight Gonzalez, Lomachenko, maybe, you know, fight the likes of Chiyama, Gamboa at 130 pound, I think he'd probably look decent sized. He's a big guy. He hits hard, but I'm with you. He actually isn't that huge, though. He isn't that huge.
That being the case, up next is the Value of the Week segment, making its return. We've got very, very strong contenders this week, so Kurt's going to do the good news and get the intro playing.
Okay, what's the value of the week? It's going to happen, mate. We're going to do it. And when we do it, it's going to be vicious, mate. I ain't a man dregsing with the weights. I ain't a man taking the last ounces of my soul on the scales. I've done that before. I ain't doing it no more. You can say what you want. Oh, Bellew's not in shape. Bellew looks fleshy at the weight. Bellew's just iced a man who's never been done before. Bellew just feels in absolutely fantastic shape. Bellew doesn't lose 2.5 stone no more each time for the camp. Bellew goes to the gym now 15 stone and just cuts 10 pound nice and easy. I fought Nathan Cleverly in my 16th fight, 15 fight novice. I'd fought, the best person I fought was Oval Mackenzie at British title level. I am now, is that 25, is that 26 fights? I've fought some of the best, I've fought the best fighter in the world in my weight class, one of the biggest pound for pound punchers in the world. I've beat guys like Isaac Chilemba, world ranked guys. Let's see who beats Isaac Chilemba. I've beat renowned punchers, Ederson Miranda. I'm not saying he was the best Ederson Miranda, I'm just saying I've beat these guys. Who's he beat? Okay, everyone's saying, well, Tony, he did beat you. He beat a guy who basically got a fight because he opened his mouth at a press conference and he sells a shitload of tickets to the Echo Arena. That's why I got that fight. Everybody thought he was going to smash me. Everyone involved with that fight thought he was going to smash me. But when he went to within an inch of losing, and it's a decision that could have went either way, he doesn't want to come near me after it. That's why he couldn't answer the question then when I said it in front of him. Just answer me this: why wouldn't you take the rematch immediately? Do you know what he said? I think he was saying what that Walsh train station was. That long word. I couldn't understand what he was saying. I just answered the simple question: why wouldn't you fight me the minute after the rematch happened? He wouldn't fight me because he believed he was going to knock me out, and he just believed he was going to beat me up. And that's all I've got to say about that. Right. Let's do it right now. We can do it right now, you fucking rat. Okay, what's the value of the week?
Everyone knows what the Bell of the Week award is. I was kind of worried actually, but as it so happens, the tail end of last week we had a very, very good front runner, but it's been absolutely off the charts actually over the last couple of days over some of these comments. The first nomination out goes to Frank Warren for saying that Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury would sell out the Millennium Stadium. Now, fucking Calzaghe Kessler did what, 60,000? That place would hold, what, all the seats, bleachers, what, 80, 90,000? Maybe even more than that?
Why would it be at the Millennium Stadium?
Exactly. Why not hold it at Old Trafford? Why not hold it at Old Trafford or some shit? Now, I picked Al Heyman for this actually. The simple fact is he's cherry picking like he does like most of his fighters. Anybody noticed that when he announced his Premier Boxing Champions with the NBC deal and Spike TV deal, that there was no boxing reporters invited? In fact, all the reporters were actually cherry picked. It's the reason why they were lucky his rim and not asking any difficult questions, etc. So Al Heyman gets a nomination. Larry Holmes, he says that Deontay Wilder and Bermane Stiverne would beat Vladimir Klitschko.
And that Vlad has no heart and no jab, which was the best. You can be the biggest hater all you want to, but to say that the man has no jab, that's just factually untrue.
I think the thing with Larry is
he is
very
really
bitter.
Yeah, he's very bitter. I mean, I think Mike Tyson's actually kind of loosened a wire there somewhere, actually. Jesus
Didn't
Christ.
Larry predict Kevin Johnson to clean up the heavyweight division a few years ago?
Possibly, it wouldn't surprise me. Number 4 on the list, Amir Khan. Sorry, Donny. Now, on Sky Sports News during the week there, he was stated, my name is linked with Pacquiao. And this is relating to the Brook fight. He says that the fight might happen down the road, but my name has been linked to Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. But the only person I see linking his name to them is Amir Khan himself, actually. So, number 5.
I mean, hang on. Who flew to England this week? Who flew to England this week to go take a photo op with Amir Khan?
Who actually waited for that photo op? Amir Khan.
I bet Khan was at the airport with Manny Pacquiao and a placard, the name, waiting for him.
Number 5 on the list, Leo Santa Cruz wants $3 million to face Guillermo Rigondo.
Well, the thing is,
the guy asked him, says, would you want $2 million? And he went, nah, $3 million.
Yeah. In all seriousness, we talked about this on the pod and why Heyman is bad. You know, yeah, he pays his fighters well, but if you're paying a fighter $750,000 to fight a guy who's, you know, offers nothing, how much is his fighter going to want to fight the best guys? And there's your answer there.
Number 6, Colonel Fat Bob Sheridan. He says on last night's fight, Bob Arum might want to put Rios back in with Manny Pacquiao.
Oh, God.
Colonel talks some shit, doesn't he?
Oh, Jesus, man.
I can't help but like him, though.
He's such a backhander job, like, you know, he's always praising the WBC, and he just seems to have his frigging finger in all the pies.
He
Literally.
doesn't care anymore, though, does he? He's like that sort of old man who's got somebody who just sits about in shorts all day and, you know, a Hawaii t-shirt, and he just doesn't give a fuck what anybody says.
Fiddling with Christina.
Yeah.
Right, finally, I've got number 7. This is the final on my list, anyway. Is it Iwan or Ewan? How do you pronounce his name? His first name? Ewan Thomas, member for the British Empire. MBE. I think it actually should stand for maybe be educated. Because he says, and he tweeted this out to Anthony Joshua and Manny Pacquiao. He says, I love to see you two have a tear up. I know you're quick and strong, but mate, the Pac-Man is a wizard.
Fucking hell. Fucking hell.
Is that the Welsh athlete? Is it,
yeah,
Thomas?
he is.
Oh, that's got to be the worst
he's
ever.
He's a former world, Commonwealth, and European gold medalist on the track.
And I think
thing
he's
is,
officially
How
a
is he
homosexual.
suffered brain damage from running?
This is a hands down winner. But the only thing is he's a fan, so it's hard. Like, this is the sort of weighing job that you need to do because, like, he's
not
a
his
fan.
fault, is it?
Yeah,
he's not in boxing, is he? So you've got to
exactly.
see. Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, people say all kinds of crazy stuff if they don't know shit about the sport, but you know, I mean, like, I still think that, like, he's still running tight with some of these other nominees. So regardless of how ridiculous that statement sounds, you need to take it in context.
To be honest, that is actually worse than that Sky presenter saying to George Groves, "Would you fight Amir Khan next?"
Yeah,
that is actually worse.
But wasn't he actually replying to a picture taken from Joshua with next to Pacquiao? So whether he's a fan or not, I mean, you can see the little guy there, and you can see Joshua standing right next to him, about 7 feet taller than him. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to work out they're not going to fight. It's like asking a person with no legs, "Why aren't you on the pitch playing football?" I mean, come on, there's got to be some brain cells there.
Right, so Kurt, you got any other nominations?
No, I can't think of
I've got one.
Alex, when you go there, mate.
You probably won't beat it, but I'm sure you've all been aware of what John Pascal's been saying about Kovalev and wanting drug testing and that.
Oh, yeah.
He was saying on Twitter, he was talking to Kovalev, he said, PEDs have been a culture in your country for 40 years. And as his evidence for this, he quotes Rocky IV.
That's a good one.
That was a good one, actually. But if he actually says, for instance, if you look at your East German athletes, you could have maybe been onto something on the old communist days. But yeah, we'll stick Jean Pascal in there. I tell you, he likes to make an accusation, doesn't he? Eh? But I tell you what, who's he training with again? Memo Heredia.
Mm-hmm.
He likes riding his bike.
Who's that? Pascal?
Pascal's with Heredia, yeah.
Pascal's my mate, but I have to say it's a little bit suspicious.
I'll tell you what, why does none of Memo Heredia's athletes actually train, actually get tested by VADA? Is it because it's endorsed by Conte?
Is it right that Marion Jones asked for testing and then got found out was the first person caught, basically?
I think it was Heredia that dropped the dime on that one. That was allegations anyway.
Before, other people have called, let's have drug testing. They're usually ones get found out. Pascal's called for it, and Kovalev's gone, I'll tell you what then, let's do it. Perfect.
Well, let me tell you something. Mimo Heredia gave an interview to a German periodical. I forget what the name of it is. You have to look it up, but basically it's the German equivalent of like a Time magazine. It's like the big national magazine. And he said about Usain Bolt and all the other competitors in the 2008 Beijing Olympics, he said obviously all these guys are on something. The trick is just making sure that they're not caught with anything or something to that effect. Okay? He definitely has not left his past behind him. He definitely, in my opinion, I mean, I don't know how you give it. I think the name of it is Der Spiegel.
That's the one.
Yeah. But I don't know how you give that interview and say those remarks, and then Usain Bolt signs up following those Olympics with you, okay, for you to be his strength and conditioning coach, and you basically just said that everybody in that race is on roids or on some sort of PEDs. It seems as if it's if not a tacit acceptance, that an outright endorsement of PED use in sports, and that it's just a game of beating the testing. This guy's dirty, in my opinion. And I mean, to me, like for Pascal to come out and say, now this is the best part, this is rich shit. He says, you're like afraid to take the test, blah, 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 you're not gonna take the test. He says, I'll even pay for it. Now, at first, Kathy Duva, says, well, in the past, people have actually asked for testing, and then they've been the dirty ones. And the first example I, of course, thought of was Peterson versus Khan. Peterson asked for testing. And then, of course, he tested positive and actually scuttled the fight. Khan didn't get that fight. And so, anyway, she says, and they're a small promotional company. They probably didn't want to take the risk of the fight getting canceled. But then all the heat that Kovalev would take, and everybody assumed he was dirty. So Kovalev says, really, probably went to Kathy Duva. He says, no, really, I want to take these tests. So Duva relents. And then Kovalev says, all right, I'll take the tests. And then, Pascal comes back and says, no, we're not going to take the tests. I'm not paying for them. It's too expensive. After he offered to pay for them in the first place and said Kovalev was afraid to test. It was a big shell game. Pascal looks like an absolute fool. I really hope the networks call him out on it when the time for the fight comes and they talk about the stuff that led up to this fight. Because Pascal really has egg on his face right now. He looks like an absolute jackass.
It costs about 30 grand.
He looked like an idiot as well in the Hopkins when they had the face-to-face, what was it called, the HBO thing that they had. Hopkins really got to him and he's making some stupid, he's talking a lot of shit. And I just think Pascal wastes a lot of energy on these kind of things. And as usual, he'll probably be tired after 4 rounds against Kovalev.
We've done this before. We've talked about testing before and how Conte basically said himself it's just like passing an IQ test. If you fail, you're a fucking idiot. But what Pascal was asking for was USADA testing, and USADA really isn't the best testing you can get at the moment. It doesn't include carbon isotope ratio testing, things like that. But what Kovalev asked for in response was VADA testing, which is the full comprehensive stuff. It's the works, and it's cheaper. It's cheaper than USADA as well. And then obviously Pascal comes back and says, no, we're not doing it, and that should really ring big alarm bells. And the person who doesn't really want to do it is Memo Heredia, because he knows how comprehensive VADA is.
I'll tell you, sorry, I was just going to say, actually, I don't think it was USADA Pascal was wanting. He was wanting to use some Montreal-based company. Now, this is the same company for the Booty fight. Excuse me. The Booty fight, the testing procedures and the testing company was kept quiet. It was confidentiality. Just check it out. It's all on the internet. Check it out. It says there were confidentiality agreements signed and sealed that they would not release any of the procedures for the testing and who the company was. So where's the transparency?
Well, here's one for you. Just last week in UFC, John Jones got done for doing coke, so they decided where his testosterone levels were over the place that they had to do a carbon isotope. I ain't going to bother trying to say it.
CIR,
you know what I mean?
CIR, yeah.
Exactly, a CIR test. And from what I can tell, to do the additional testing, it costs $500.
There you go.
After you pay for the first bit of testing, your CIR ain't really that much expensive. And they tested him, and it turns out he was absolutely clean. And so was his opponent. So
the thing is, I understand is VADA costs £8,000 for the full Brunner. USADA is meant to apparently cost $8,000, and it's $80,000 for USADA. So USADA, and it's meant to be even more expensive for that other one that Pascal was using for the Montreal based company, or whatever it was. Now, at the end of the day as well, is USADA don't use CIR testing on all their samples, so they're cherry picking as to who gets what. And to be honest, I would be very wary about using USADA. I mean, after they binned the testing results for the Quillen Winky Wright fight, I think it was that one anyway. Peter Quillen, Winky Wright.
Was that fight got called?
No good.
Or something.
I think it got put back or something. But anyway, the test results got fucking destroyed for some reason. So you're thinking, right? Okay, what the hell's going on? What happened to the testing? Did the blood go bad? Did they not chill it properly or whatever? You just think, okay, there's just something not right here. And the thing as well is USADA is 18 months. If you miss 3 tests in 18 months, it's automatic class as a positive test. I think USADA are actually more stricter than that. I think it's if you miss 3 tests in a matter of, is it a couple of weeks, I think, Alex? It's not as much as 18 months anyway.
I'm not sure on that one, no, but
it's certainly a lot shorter than what USADA do anyway.
The thing is, you've got to be volunteered and signed up for these year-round testing, like 365, 24/7 testing. I mean, a lot of these things just test for when you're fighting or, in training camps, and that's pointless. You could be using, when you're on your downtime, you could be getting the full benefits of it then. It's pointless just testing when you're being prepared for a fight, because you can just cycle off of it. You're already getting over the benefits beforehand. And we should clarify what CIR testing does. It tests for synthetic testosterone. We know, I'm sure a lot of people know about the 4-to-1 epitestosterone to testosterone levels, and that's the limit that all testing sort of goes for. If you go over 4-to-1 ratio of testosterone to epitestosterone, 4 times the amount of normal testosterone you have in your body, then you get flagged, get done. But 4 times is still a hell of a lot of extra testosterone in your body. And CIR testing tests people that are using exogenous testosterone, additional stuff that's basically put in your body, synthetic stuff that's being put into your body, even if you are under the 4-to-1 ratio. And this is why it's very significant, because you could have fighters that are, very specifically take, very specific amounts just to get like 3.9, so they can get the absolute full benefits. That's what Lamont Peterson was on. He was on about 3.7, I think, when he popped testing. That's why he didn't get done. He wouldn't have got done on a USADA test, but he got done from a VADA test, because they spotted the fact that he was having exogenous testosterone, and that's why it's so important.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kyle, when you go, we've actually went away off serious here because we need to get this Billy of the Week award issued, but it's good to have a bit of chat about it.
Yeah.
Anyways, I've got Frank Warren, Al Heyman, Larry Holmes, Amir Khan, Leo Santa Cruz, Colonel Bob Sheridan, Ewan Thomas, and Jean Pascal all up for nomination. So, Kurt, who is your winner this week?
Ewan Thomas for me.
Ewan Thomas. Donnie?
I'm going to go with Leo Santa Cruz.
Kyle?
I think, considering the debate that it's just provoked, John Pascal. Sorry, mate.
It's alright, it's 1-1-1. Steve?
Oh, actually, sorry, I want to change my vote to Pascal.
Okay, it's 1 and 2. So
I was saying sorry to John Pascal, he's my mate. I was saying sorry to him.
Steve?
As much as I want to give it to the Colonel, I'm going to relent and give it to you and Thomas, because that's a cracker.
That's 2-2. Alex?
I was enjoying the Pascal chat, but I think Ewan Thomas definitely deserves it for that. That's just outrageous.
3-2 to Ewan Thomas. Adam?
Ewan Thomas deserves it, but Larry Holmes should know better, so I'm going to give a vote to Larry.
3-2 and 1. Who was the 2 again? Was that for...
Pascal.
Steve, you were who?
Ewan Thomas.
Ewan Thomas.
He's won.
He's won. Okay, I'm going to get Ewan Thomas as well, and so he's right out of the park with that one. So Ewan Thomas, congratulations, sir. You are our Billy of the Week award winner. Congratulations.
And I think to all the listeners, they should all send him a tweet and let him know he's won this award.
Tweet.
And he might bring up another fantasy fight for us for next week.
He might do. Guys, I'm almost running at 2 hours, so what we'll do is, if you want, we can very briefly cover over some of the chat what we're just having there regards to the drug testing, but if you just bear with me very briefly, I'll just state that the schedule next week, which we will be covering, obviously Kevin Mitchell faces Daniel Estrada, and what's going to be basically an eliminator for the WBC title, maybe. Still, let the listeners know, because there is no decent fights or more fights for next week, we're going to be covering 3 topics of discussion. What we want to do is, one of them is going to be favourite rivalries of all time, discussion for fun, entertaining fights that's going under the radar. So, like, for instance, Ezra Sellers against Carol Thompson, for instance. Verhel Sahaprum against, who was that guy who got beat off in his 4th fight? Was it Nidam?
Nana Yor Conadu.
There we go, see that. And finally, we're going to have a wee discussion on if you wish you could have been there. So basically, what fights in history could you wish you could have been at ringside at? And you must give your reasons why.
Can't wait.
Okay, so if anybody's interested in getting involved with chat, drop us an email. Kurt, what's the email address?
I don't know, man, I can't think.
Is it just Boxing Asylum?
Just tweet us.
At gmail.com.
Is it Boxing Asylum? So if you want to let us know what your thoughts are,
yeah,
so just hit us up at boxasylum@gmail.com. And again, those discussions are discussion of fun, entertaining, have gone under the radar. So it needs to be like, say, for instance, no like your Arturo Gatti ones, for instance. We're talking like guy fights maybe on undercards, on like say small hall shows, that type of thing. Favourite rivalries of all time, so you're talking like say Gatti, Ward, Vasquez, Marquez, that type of thing. And obviously as well as what you wish you were there, basically. What fights in history did you wish you could have been at ringside, and give your reasons why. So that is that. Anybody want to take up the chat again, regards to the fights? If so, if not, the remaining fights for next week I think are as follows. I think there's a fight from, give me a second here. I don't think there's anything on at all next week, is there? Nothing on Friday anyway.
Yeah, it's Super Bowl Sunday, Andy. There's not gonna be much to hear.
Sonny Bill Williams is back in action. Stephen Jamoy is back in action in Belgium. Super Bowl, that's right enough. Super Bowl. I think Francisco Rodriguez Jr. is in action next week in Mexico, and the Krzysztof Golacki versus Nuro Sefra from Poland. And that's about it, really.
There's an ESPN show, isn't there, with Shane Mosley's sons on it, and I think Jeff Lacey's still knocking about the corpse formerly known as Jeff Lacey anyway.
Quick comment on Pascal, no matter what drugs they give him, it ain't going to improve his chin, and Kovalev walks straight through him.
Yeah, there you go. Well, to be honest, guys, I think we've got anything else to add, so I think we'll just maybe close the show at this point. So I'd like to thank the panel again: Kurt Ward, Donny Baseball, Kyle McLaughlin, Steve Wellens, Alex Morris, and a shagged out Adam Smith.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Andy Patterson. We'll see you all next week. Cheers for listening, and all the best.
Cole Frotch retires a legend.
I'm here.
Wish I could be there for Audley Harrison's prize fight.
Forever in the shadow.